Talk Show.
Recorded live.
Welcome to the Thursday Night's Time for Retargeting podcast. I'm your moderator, Ella, and tonight we have a very, very, very special guest, one close to my heart, Vulcan Wolverine, also known as Kyle. If you are new to the call, please stay on, and we will get you some support, some additional Talk Show podcast numbers, and some helpful links and websites. This is a solutions and educational-based podcast, but the views and opinions of my guests are not necessarily my own personal views and opinions. My goal is that everyone can obtain something out of tonight, especially a feeling of empowerment. If you have any suggestions, comments, questions, or especially if you are in need of additional support, please don't hesitate to email me at tiangel2016@gmail.com. Again, that's tiangel2016@gmail.com. So thank you, Kyle. I know this was very last minute, so I'm really happy that you were able to come on and agree to be interviewed. I think, you know, a lot of times with moderators and other people out there busy in the activist field, we don't know a lot about them, you know, or maybe you've told your story a long time ago, but we have a whole new crop of new people. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for everyone to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, and thank you, Ella, for having me on. And, you know, it's not a big deal that it's kind of on the fly because that's pretty much just how I do everything. You know, I am Kyle, or a.k.a. Vulcan Wolverine on YouTube. When I do YouTube videos, they're pretty much on the fly, just have an idea to, you know, show a certain article that a TI wrote, or information or a testimonial, or just what's going on in my life. I kind of pick pretty quick, so no problem, you know.
Great. So, well, I guess I'm always curious about, like, I understand you live in the South, and so you're a Southern boy. So you were raised in the South as well?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Louisiana, you know, all my life. And I did go to Texas, to University of Texas in Austin. I got my BS in radio television in 2003. And then I went to work for a very, very well-known computer company in Texas for about... and y'all know it's Dell, you know. You know, so I did spend a lot of time in Texas, and then I kind of wanted to start my story of targeting when I came back from Texas. Like I finished up working at Dell. I kind of want to start. It was about 2010, late 2010 or 2011 that I returned to Louisiana. From college at Texas and then working at Dell, and that's when I realized that I was being externally affected by it.
Oh, wow. And how did you know?
Well, it was, you know, about a year before I started hearing the high-pitched sound, my neighbor, he was an older gentleman, and he would, so I'd wake up in the morning to go to the bathroom, and when I'd walk in, he would start running his water. So there was someone, I thought he was hearing me like walk across the floor of the apartment, and he would also come out at the same time as me. So like if I was leaving early in the morning, he would come out at the exact same time, or if I went to go get my mail, he would be there. And it was generally that gentleman. And about 8 months after that kind of weird stuff started, then boom, one day that high-pitched tinnitus sound, started hearing that so badly that I had to like lay down on the couch. I was like trying to just go everywhere to get away from it in the apartment. And so that's when I knew that somebody was hitting me with something. But I had no idea that it was a large program, that other people were being hit by it. You know, and it was about 2 months in this apartment that I was being hit with that high-pitched sound to where it was like burning my head. My head felt like it was going to burst open. I'd go to the back room, I'd go to the front room to lay on the couch, and I would hear it everywhere. It did sound like...
What, initially?
Well, what I initially thought it was, because there was an ex-Marine younger man and then that older man who lived by me. And so I thought, hey, this older guy has figured out something. He's got some equipment from this ex-Marine, like some kind of communications equipment, or he's got something that he just kind of put together, and it's emitting some kind of high pitched sound right at my head. So I started studying. Like I went to Radio Shack, and I looked up online high pitched sounds, and I found this thing called the mosquito, which they use overseas in parking lots to get loiterers to go away like late at night, and it emits kind of a high pitched sound. But really only a certain age hears that. It's like from the age of 12 to the age of like 18 at the latest, they hear that high pitched sound. But then your ear loses that. Like your ear loses that to hear certain frequencies of sound. So I thought that he was using something like this, something he got from the ex-Marine that lived by him. I wasn't sure, but I thought it was they had cobbled something together, and this was just a vendetta against me. I thought it was specifically for me to get me out of that apartment.
Right. I see. So you thought it was to do with they wanted your apartment.
Well, not that they wanted the apartment, but that they just wanted me out of that area.
I see.
But,
yeah.
Because I was playing music late at night. I was kind of rude, because this guy got up in the morning, really early every morning to go to work, and I would play loud music late at night, and I wasn't thinking about the people around me.
Right.
So looking back on that, I really was. It would have been annoying. But he never came and said anything to me about it. He never said, can you turn down your music or anything like that. It was just the harassment started. And then that high-pitched noise started one day and then didn't stop unless I would leave. When I would leave, it would stop. It would stop, but the high-pitched sound it would be in my ears, and then it would kind of taper off. So now I know what they were trying to make me think, because I had this thought in my head that, okay, my ears are trying to heal when I'm away from it. So I'm hearing the sound, and then it's tapering off. But now I realize what they were doing is, I guess they were remote neural monitoring me at the time. They knew kind of what I was thinking about what was going on, so that I was thinking that my ears were just healing up, like it was an after ring effect from what they were doing. And then when I did, so it was very, very weird. Just didn't really.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask you.
No,
at that point, did you know a lot about targeting, about technology? Had you researched? How in depth was your research at that point?
At that point, like it was 2 months in that apartment of that high pitched sound. I knew nothing about it. I thought that maybe it was some kind of device like the mosquito device that this older man had gotten a hold of, or some kind of something they used in the Marine Corps overseas that they the guy stole and brought back with him, and it was just specifically revenge on me to get me out of those apartments. So I did end up in 2 months of just straight hell, and I was going to extended stays and talking to the apartment manager, trying to get moved. I went to my parents, and I would still hear the high-pitched sound, but like I said, it would act differently. When I went to the apartment, it would be constant, very loud. And one night I remember going back to the apartment to get some stuff, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I went to take a bath in the apartment. What it felt like is that this older man got right behind my head while I was in the bathtub and had this emitter, and was just emitting that high-pitched sound to where it felt like nerves in the back of my neck were just becoming unraveled and just pounding in my head. I mean, it was so bad. And then when I moved away from that point, it got a little bit less, but it was like it seemed, this is what it seemed like to me. It seemed like he would take these emitters, and then it would take a little while. And then when I'd go to sleep with my parents, I would hear it a lot less, and then it would taper off. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, this is damaging my ears. And so that high-pitched ringing sound when I leave here, it's staying in my ears, but it's healing up. It's healing up when I leave the place. And then after 2 months of that, I finally got my apartment manager to agree to move me down the way in the same apartment complex. Which now, if I would have known the full scope of this program and how they maybe move to another state right away.
Yeah. We are losing. We're losing words here and there, but so far it still makes sense.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. My attackers are probably going to do that. What do you need me to repeat? Just after 2 months, I talked to my apartment manager, and she agreed to move me to another place in the apartments in the same complex. And at that time, I still did not know what I was involved in. I still did not know what they were doing. I still thought it was just they're trying to get me out of the area. Let me get out of that area. I'll get out of that area and they'll stop doing it. But what happened is I moved down the way to an apartment on the lower level. I think I had about 2 weeks of nothing. No high-pitched sound, no nothing, no anything. And then one day, it started again, and it seemed like it was coming from right above me. And I had one of their girlfriends staying right above me. One day I was walking out, and I'm not sure if I was supposed to hear this or if I just heard this, by chance. But the younger man, he was trying to get into the Army, and he said, "Well, I'm trying to get into the Army." He was talking to one of his friends on the balcony, and he said, he said, "That guy's an ex-Marine. I'm obviously going to listen to him. I don't know this other guy." So I took that as that they had moved the over and above me with these guys. And now what changed then, because I'd been hearing the high-pitched sound, but I had been hearing nothing like V2K, nothing at all, no voices or anything like that. It was just that high-pitched sound. Felt like it was just burning my nervous system sometimes, like all the way down from my head, my neck, and my back. But then when I moved into the other part of the apartment, can you hear me, Ella?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
Okay. I moved to the other, like another apartment in the same apartment complex, and I was still hearing the high-pitched sound. It was like they were shooting something. I was getting the high-pitched sound, and I was getting like burning to my face. But I kind of just thought, I thought it was some kind of high-pitched thing that was just making all of my muscles tense up, and I still did not know, that it was some kind of targeting program. But the weird thing that happened there is I would think that I could hear the people above me talking about it. And like the girlfriend that lived there, she would come out for work in the morning, and I'd usually still be up because I was just getting tortured and I couldn't sleep. And she would say something like, "I'm going to turn the high-pitched sound would just turn completely off. It's like she was switching something off. The high-pitched sound would disappear. And then she would leave really slowly. And then, what happened? I stayed about eight months there, and I was throwing a tennis ball up at the floor above me, saying stop attacking me, because I thought that it was just ground weapons hitting me from their apartment. I talked to my dad about it, because I had talked to him about what was happening for the 2 months when the high-pitched sound first started. He helped me to get moved to that other place, but we thought that it would stop then. So I had to, after probably about a month of it happening there, so 2 weeks break with nothing, then another month with the high-pitched sound. I didn't know I was getting V2K yet, but I probably was because I thought it was my neighbor. I thought I could just hear them talking. But I went ahead and I told my dad again. I started trying to get out of that apartment, but because I was on this lease for another 8 months, I would have lost all that money. So I kind of had to stick it out there, stayed in extended stays. I had a pretty good job then, working for Dream Day Foundation, which for St. Jude, so it wasn't hard to spend some money on extended stays and staying with. What happened there, though, and I'm not sure, I don't know exactly the timeline, but within that 8 months, and I think it was about maybe, hello?
Oh, I'm sorry, I had a question. What foundation was it?
The Dream Day Foundation. It's
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, Dream Day Foundation in Louisiana, and I was writing grants and just helping my mom with like everything. Like she's the executive director, or she was the executive director, and I would just do like pretty much everything in the office and write grants, and and she was also she had a contract, a 501c3, and so she was contracting to work with the Braddock, it's the Baton Rouge area basically the alcohol and drugs center. So we were helping them. We were making money for them and doing, fundraisers and stuff for them, and doing St. Jude. And and it was weird because I had this job. I knew I was being attacked at the apartment. But I thought what was happening when I left is that I was just tired and hurt from what had happened to me when they were shooting the ground weapons at me. It all. But after about 6 months, what happened was I was in Walgreens, and this is after, I'd go to some extended stays, and I thought that I would hear the people above me talking, and it seemed like the same number of people who I heard was at the apartment, like the three younger people. So I would move in the extended stay, and I would still hear them above me. And I still, I just, you're not looking for this stuff in your life. You don't know that this stuff exists. So I was like, well, I'm starting to hear people above me. My hearing must be affected, and now my hearing must be really sensitive to where I'm hearing people above me. But about 6 months after a stay in that new apartment, I was in a Walgreens one day, and this was the moment. And I remember it vividly. I was in the Walgreens, and I just came in. I just walked in, and I think I was looking at some magazines right when you walk in. I heard those same three people above me in the Walgreens. And that's when it clicked. I said, they have some kind of remote thing. That ex-Marine guy must have given them some kind of equipment, and they just have this equipment that's used in the Army for communications or sending radio signals or something, and that's what they're doing to me. Still hadn't seen anything about targeted individuals or organized gang stalking or anything like that. So I knew that it was remote at that time. But I stayed in that apartment at the end of 2011. No, probably about a couple months into 2012. And that's when I moved to a house that my mom had found, and I was gonna do a lease to buy from her, and keep working. So I really getting away from it then. This is a horror. The young kid that ended up. Let me kind of finish in that apartment. The younger kids had left any kind of talking to the management, and they owed all this money. It was very, very weird. Very weird. The guy next to me on the floor his place had been broken into numerous times. So I'm not sure if they were trying to set me up or what. And there's a lot of little stories that go into living in that apartment because I had no idea what was going on, and I think they were really trying to get me to do something crazy. But so those young people left, and I did have to stay, I think, like 2 more months after they left before I could move into that house. And at that time, I still heard the high-pitched sound. But what I thought, this is at the time, I thought that the guy next to me on the ground floor or the lady above, that they had given, and so they were hitting me, with ground weapons. That's what I thought. Now I know that I was being hit remotely, and they were trying to make it sound like it came from them. But what they did is they made it a lot lower, and they made it kind of go away every once in a while so that it seemed like a different person would have been doing it. So that was their tactic there. But then I moved into the house with weird. I would still kind of hear high-pitched sounds sometimes, and especially if I turned on my computer, it would have this loud, tinny sound that, I didn't know. But the V2K was gone. Like the V2K that I heard above me, I heard in the Walgreens. For 3 months, I was in this new house, not hearing any V2K. Something weird's going on with my ears, but I thought they were still healing, right? Then one night, it starts to get worse. It's not getting better. The high-pitched sound isn't getting better. It's getting worse. So I'm like, okay, maybe they got the neighbors over here to do it when I moved over here, because I knew by then that my neighbor, after 3 months, I knew he was ex-Army. So I knew him or came over and just asked him, like the ex-Marine guy came over and said, hey, you're ex-Army, will you harass this guy for us? Still, and this is after 2 months, 8 months. How long is that? That's a year. It took me about a year and a half to find out that I was in a larger world of targeted individuals. But so for 3 months, no V2K. I had the tinny sound in my ears, but then I decided to move over to the other side of the house just in case this ex-Army guy was helping them. When I moved over to the other side of the house, it's like they switched the ground equipment to the Hispanic gentleman. There was a house with like a bunch of, like, I think 4 Hispanic gentlemen in it. The high-pitched sound became unbearable, and it became obviously like it was coming from their house. It was just very, very obvious. I look back and I'm like, maybe it was remote, but I think that at that time they were hitting me with ground weapons as well as remote. As well as like the signals from the cell phone towers, but I heard it from that side and knew that I was being hit. So I freaked out. Because I thought I had gotten away from it in those apartments. I ran outside to the other side, to the ex-Army guy's house, and this was like kind of noonish. It was noon in the day, and I started banging a log on the ground, going, not again, are y'all doing this to me again? And the mother, because there's the ex-Army guy, his wife, and they had 2 daughters, she comes running out of the house crying, saying, I'm sorry. And this was a very, very nice lady, She's like, I'm sorry, and she was like crying, because I think that they were doing something. She thought that it would end there. What ended up happening is the sheriff came out, the ex-Army guy came home, and my dad came in. And so we had this little kind of talk, and I was like, I'm hearing a high-pitched sound from y'all's house, and I don't know what it is. And he was like, I don't hear any high-pitched sound. It could be my washing machine or something like that. And his wife looked so uncomfortable. Like, she looked like she was on, but she didn't say anything, and she was crying. And when she came running out, she was like, I'm sorry, like saying she's sorry for something to me. And I'm beating a log onto the ground, kind of in the middle, not at their house, but in the middle. So the sheriff goes away, and, I couldn't prove that they were doing anything. They said they would check their appliances and stuff like that. Then after that incident, right after that incident, probably a week later, I got the high-pitched sound where I knew that I was being attacked with a high-pitched sound, and I got voices. I got voices from their house, and the direction was coming from their house, and it seemed like the ex-Army guy and his wife talking about it, where his wife was saying, he didn't do anything. Why are we doing this? And he was like, we got to do this. We got to get him out of here. That was the big thing for the V2K. Now, at that point, even though I knew, like in that Walgreens, that there was some kind of radio signal to my head, even then, with hearing their voices like that, I still thought that I was just hearing their voices from their house. I would not believe it, that voice came into my head. Would not believe it. It took me till I actually looked, actually, no, it was before I found out that I was a targeted individual. But let's, I have a hard time with the timeline, but it's like, okay, so I moved in that house in 2012, 3 months, didn't hear any V2K, didn't know I was being attacked, but somebody was slowly attacking me with the high-pitched sound. And after the 3 months, it ramps. I'm being attacked. Probably I'd say a month or a month and a half later, I started really studying. I was like, on here, I had cars going by. Like, I would walk out of my house maybe at 3 in the morning to go to the convenience store, and I would have like 3 white cars drive by. I'd have cabs kind of coming out when I was out. I would, see caravans of cars. Just really, really, really weird stuff. And also, I saw a lot of authoritative vehicles like city police and sheriffs when I was driving around town. I would see those types of vehicles. So, probably about a month and a half after that incident with the sheriff and everything, that's when I got online and I put in high frequency, and then somehow I found electromagnetic frequency from that, and then I put in high pitch electromagnetic frequency, and I came across the first YouTube video of the person. The first YouTube TI that I saw was Timothy Trespass, and he had a video. He had a video under high pitch electromagnetic frequency where he played this high pitched sound that sounds like the tinnitus sound kind of. And from there, I just started watching, to kind of figure out what was going on. Then I found the patents and everything like that. And probably, I'd say only about 2 weeks later, because I was getting hit really, really hard with the high-pitched sound. The body shots, I didn't know that they had started by then, but I started to become aware of those. And then the V2K, it was mainly this guy and his wife talking, or I thought it was them. Her arguing and saying, "Stop this! You're killing him. He's a good person." The army guy going, "No, we got to get him out of here. He's dangerous." Blah blah blah. But that's when I started making YouTube. So it was around probably the end of 2012, 2013. Probably about the middle of 2012 is when I started making videos.
2012. So when you started putting them up, were you getting a decent amount of views? Were people reaching out to you at that point?
Yeah, I actually, I'd probably get about 50 views. 50 views in a week. It wasn't that great. It wasn't like now I'll put out a video and in a day I'll get 100 views. But I was getting, I was probably getting 100 views in a week. And then, it'd go to like 300 after a couple of weeks. So, still getting some pretty good views on the videos I was putting out. Also, one of the first target individuals that I saw on YouTube was named William the Bastard. And now he talked about it. He talked about gang stalking, and he talked about the electronic harassment. Some of his theories didn't really mesh with me. I think he was a little bit off in left field on some of them. But what I loved was that he made these like hour and a half videos of him just talking about it and just talking about what's going on with him and, talking about what he thought was going on. So that really hit me because it made me feel not alone. I had felt so alone for these years where the tinnitus sound started, then for that year and a half, I felt like I was the only person in the world. I thought that they had cooked up something, and the ex-Marine had some equipment. Also, the manager at the apartment complex was married to a guy from Capital City Ultrasonics. So that company actually has equipment that uses electromagnetic frequencies to look through pipes and stuff like that. So I thought it was that these people were annoyed by me in that apartment, and they were just doing it with personal equipment, maybe with some equipment that the guy should have been using at work. mixed with this ex-Marines equipment. You know, I had no idea that there were special weapons, you know, made specifically to target us, to electronically torture us. I kind of forgot where I was going with that. But but William the Bastard, he made long videos, really long videos. So I said, I want to do that. I want to make TIs can watch me talk about my situation and what I think's going on, and you know what I'm going through, and you know, and that'll comfort them. That'll make them feel not so alone. You know, so that's the first TI that I saw who made these long videos, and I said that's what I want to do. You know, because I think we're going to get somewhere with that. And we're also going to, you know, TIs that are thinking about maybe committing suicide, or you know, TIs that are just like, I don't know anybody who's going through this. I want it to get out there to them. You know, and I actually had targeted individuals, you know, commenting on the thing or sending me emails saying, you know, I think I had a couple who said, you know, I was going to commit suicide, but I watched your videos and I felt not so alone. So, you know, thank you for that. There were a lot that said, well, they said, you know, it makes me just feel not so isolated. Sometimes I'll just play your videos in a loop while I sleep, so I can be with somebody who's going through what I'm going through.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. So I mean, that's when it started to get really important for me making videos. Now at that time, I was still calling the police out almost every 2 weeks. I was calling the police out. I had zoned in on that neighbor because he was ex-Army. The lights on the left side of his house were always on, and it was him, his wife, and they had two daughters, and they had a whole room empty on the left side near my house. So there was a lot of weird stuff going on, and actually one day, you know, I'm having a hard time with the timeline, but one day I was walking around the house, and I was getting hit in the head so hard, and I walked around the house, and I saw a directed energy weapon in his window, square front. It was like a black, sleek weapon that was on his shoulder, and it was like pointed at me, like with a square front. So it was a microwave weapon. Looking back, I think I was supposed to see that. I don't think he made a mistake. I think that I was supposed to see that ground weapon because they wanted me to think everything 24 hours a day was coming from the people on the sides of me. The Hispanic gentleman's house and the Army gentleman's house. They wanted me to believe that everything 24 hours a day, V2K, the burning, you know, the high-pitched noise, it was all coming from them. Which now I look back and I think that they were supplements whenever they'd come home from work on the weekend and stuff like that. But the 24-hour day stuff at that point, I think had been moved to completely remote, and they were doing this program. I think the V2K 24 hours a day was not that guy and his wife. I think maybe they got their voices from phone calls, or they either volunteered their voices. But then I was part of the, you know, the larger program, and I'm not sure when that started. I'm not sure if it was the whole time. You know, even when it first started. Still trying to kind of figure out how things worked, how the ground weapons fit in, how the remote, you know, hits from cell phone towers fit in. Still kind of trying to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, in that house, I've gone through the most trauma during all of it, probably, where it would feel like they were burning half of my body. I started to, you know, I made this huge enclosure in my kitchen with corrugated steel and painted both sides with aluminum paint. Paint all the walls inside and out of the house with aluminum paint. Put corrugated steel up against the walls. I was also buying lots of Q-Wave $500 plates because I had a good job. I had good income, so I'd buy like one every month. You know, and also buying Q-Wave defenders, which it seemed at the time like I put them right up against that neighbor's house, the ex-Army guy. Put them right up against his house, and it seemed like they would try and get a frequency to hit me, and then it would attenuate out. But I'm not sure now. I'm not sure if that was part of my hyper game theory, where they were trying to make me think that they would work so I'd keep buying more, you know. Also, buying Q-Wave defenders then, but a lot of defenses. But at this time I probably called the police out, the city police, once every 2 weeks. And I told the police, I was like, my neighbor is hitting New Age taser. It's it's a high-pitched sound. He's shooting it from his house to my house. They'd usually some of them took a report, but one actually, the last one that I talked to, he walked over, talked to the neighbor, and walked through his house, and he said, my father was ex-Army too, and he said, that guy's not doing anything to you. And he said, if you ever call me again, I'm gonna throw you in jail. So I called the police a lot, probably about, I guess, 10 times in a couple of months. But that was the last time, because the guy threatened to lock me up if I ever called again. That's when I started making reports with the FBI. I was calling the FBI once a week. The FBI told me that they would go ahead and investigate it, but they could not tell me where that investigation would lead, and they couldn't give me any results ever on the investigation. They said that they would investigate if anything was going on. So I thought, well, at least they're going to be watching this. If these people are surveilling me and hitting me with, directed energy weapons, and by that time I knew I was part of a program. I knew that this was, a lot of other people were experiencing it. I knew that it was, they were getting money to do this. I didn't know how prominent it was and how big it was and how organized from the DOD, but I knew that certain military guys were doing it and probably making money. I called the FBI a couple of times every week. Wasn't really getting anywhere with that. So I ended up calling the Inspector General. The Inspector General is the person that's over all of the city police. So I called the Inspector General and I said, my neighbor is hitting me with he's harassing me all the time, and let me go back a little bit. There was a day that I was walking in my backyard, and my neighbor kind of said hello from his fence, and he had his army jacket on and his crew cut and everything, fat face. And I walked over to him. That was supposed to be a joke. It wasn't supposed to sound that bitter. I hope it didn't. But I walked over to him, and his wife was just acting she was standing off, behind him, just looking like she did not want to be there. And he was just he was kind of smiling, he was smirking, and he goes, I just wanted to tell you a story. He said, I want to tell you a story. One time I had this dog, and it kept barking. And, one of my friends said, you need to get that dog an electric collar. So I got the dog an electric collar, and when it would bark, I would electrocute it. This is a story he brought me over to his fence to tell me. He said, and whenever that dog would bark, I would just electrocute it. It stopped barking. I mean, this was our conversation that he was having with me. And I was kind of just trying to laugh. I was very uncomfortable. I didn't want to cause any more trouble than he was already causing for me. I thought, and I do realize he was helping out some, but he was not doing all 24 hours a day of the torture. That was the illusion that was created, that they were creating for me with my torture. But he told me that story, to my face, and his wife she walked off in the middle of it. I talked to her a couple of times, I talked to her outside of the house, a very sweet woman. I talked to him, and I just said, if I'm making too much noise or something over here, I know y'all have young kids who go to school, so just let me know, and we were on very friendly terms. We talked a couple of times. So then the V2K kind of changed a little bit to where she was like, we've got to stop this. You're killing him. We can't do this. This is killing somebody. And he was like, who cares? pretty much the same kind of narrative I have now, just with different voices, just with a different man and woman. They eventually added another deep woman's voice, like a woman's voice that was very deep, and I thought that was the neighbor living next to them. But yet that voice was going 24 hours a day. So, and this other neighbor had kids too. But I was very confused about how this was working. I thought maybe they were just kind of bringing people over to the house that lived in the neighborhood. They had this equipment. You know, they could kind of hit me on the ground, and they could also hit me remotely around the city, like in my car and stuff like that. But I thought all of the remote station, and I had already begun calling it that then, the remote station, I thought that he had it in his house, like on the left side of it. That's why I was putting all these Q-wave plates up against the wall. And they seemed to actually affect what they were doing. Now I kind of question if he just had ground weapons from other place, and they were just trying to make me think that these Q-wave, plates were working. There's so much. I mean, it's been so long, and then even before I knew I was being targeted, go back to 1999, and I started to have very bad jaw pain and shoulder pain when I was about to go off to school in Texas. And, I went to a dentist, and the dentist was like, cartilage dissolved that fast. And that was like after I got my wisdom teeth taken out. So, and I'd had Crohn's disease since I was 10. So a lot of medical stuff, braces, dental work, wisdom teeth. I had a lot of stuff going on from when I was about 10 to 19. And when I was 19, started feeling real bad pains in my jaw that carried over from like about the year 2000 to 2000 to whenever I knew I was being targeted. But I always thought that it was part of my Crohn's disease. So I look back to from like 1999 to when I knew I was targeted, and I see these weird incidences, these weird things that were going on. My vision became blurry all of a sudden, 2004, I think. And I thought that something was leaking out of the car, to make my vision blurry, because it happened all of a sudden. Jaw pain, tons of jaw pain all throughout college and afterwards, and when I worked at Dell, to where I'd have to spend days in bed because my heart was just so much pain. Then also when I went to work at Dell in about 2005, it must have been about 2005 because I worked for Barnes and Noble and some other places between right when I got out of college to then. I worked my last year of college. I worked at Pluckers in Texas, but weird stuff was going on then, and it's like when I got that job at Dell, I had a good time. People liked me and things like that, and there didn't seem to be many problems. Looking back, I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of pain to the left side of my head, my face. There were some things, but it seems a little bit too far back. But after a surgery in 2008, I had to get a foot of colon removed because my stomach was hurting so bad with Crohn's disease. They actually dissected the colon from the small intestine to try and let it heal on its own, but it would not heal. The colon would not heal, even with no food going through it. So I had to get that foot of colon taken out. That I'm suspicious now that I was being hit in the colon, and that's why I had to get a foot of it removed. But anyway, that's kind of not the point. The point is, surgery in 2008, the surgeon acted very weird, even though the surgery was just all kinds of successful. It was he got it done. He left as much colon for me as he could, and it really worked out. He just did a great job. Then I got put back into Dell, but into a different department because the department that I was in before I left was disbanding. So I got put into order processing, which was a nightmare in itself because it's so boring, and it was a completely new group right after surgery. And from almost day one going back, to a new department like that, I had people walking by me who weren't necessarily in my group, and they would like stomp their feet when they would walk by me. And this, and I hung on to the job. I was getting treated horribly, horribly, just horribly. People would follow me into the bathroom, things like that. At the time, though, I thought that, okay, I just had the surgery. I do have to take painkillers even when I come to work. I thought maybe people thought I was like a drug addict, and they were doing some kind of workplace mobbing that had nothing to do with this program. 'Cause that wasn't even in my head at the time. Didn't have a high-pitched ring sound in my ears, no V2K or anything like that. Had extensive pain on the left side of my head, though. And I would also fall asleep driving to and from work. There was weird stuff going on in that time. But I was workplace mob for the entire year, or the entire 2 years I worked at order processing, where I tried to start working from home, but then that was a problem because then everybody started to want to work from home. Then when I'd come into work, there was an ex-Marine he managed right by my manager, and he would come into meetings and put his hands on my chair and just stand there the whole time right behind me. So very weird. I look back, and there was gang stalking in that workplace mobbing, probably while I was getting hit with an implant on my left side. Yet the stuff that they do to entrain, the high-pitched sound, the V2K, all that stuff, that was only when I went back to Louisiana. But I had no idea at this time. Also, two weird incidences while I was working at Dell, but they were trying to really get me out of there. My middle manager would put white stuff in my chair, and I thought, oh, they must think I'm on drugs because I have to take painkillers. I have to. My stomach was cut open. I had a regimen of painkillers to just make it through and get to work. But the middle manager would be putting white stuff in my chair. People would be doing weird things like this. Would play this song when I'd walk by his desk, the Michael Jackson song, Just Beat It. I look back, and it was just workplace mobbing with this targeting mixed in. Also, weird incident is I went to a comic book store a couple of times, and the guy would sniff. He would follow me around the store, and I bought a ton of stuff from this place. And this guy would follow me around the store and go and just sniff. And that was one of the things that the surgeon who did the colon dissection and resection, his receptionist would do that on the phone and when I'd go in. It was the sniffing thing. That was some kind of gaslighting protocol for me. Then I broke up with a girlfriend that I really liked in probably around, when was that? Must have been right before it must have been in about 2009. While I worked there, while I was still working at Dell, but I was kind of coming to the end of that. And I broke up with her, and she drove a yellow Humvee. And right when I broke up with her, a few weeks later, I started seeing yellow Humvees everywhere. Never seen one in my life. I'd only seen a couple. Now I know that some people could say, well, you broke up with a girl who was driving a yellow Humvee, I'd probably see that kind of thing. But the frequency of it was way too much. It was way more than that. So I look back all the way to 1999 when I got my wisdom teeth out. And I think what happened is, I may have had gotten some hardware put in a tooth, or when I got my wisdom teeth taken out. I've had millions of colons. I've had at least 100 colons in my life. I may have had some hardware put in then when I was even younger. So I may have been surveilled from a young age, and then got put through to kind of a torture protocol where I really didn't know I was being tortured for about 10 years. And then after about 2010, 2011, had some other people who were ex-military around me who kind of pushed me through another rung of the program, which is the tinnitus, V2K, total life destruction aspect of targeting. But then it's and then I'll kind of skip back to living in the house. I'd kind of gotten it balanced. I wasn't accusing the Army guy anymore, even though he would put toxins in my area. I would walk outside, I'd smell a sewage smell or a burning hamburger smell. They would also put poison through my pipe. There was a plumber who lived across the street that would help out with that. We're running a certain kind of toxin into the house. And on the weekends and like at nights, it was way, way worse. So I do think that they supplement it with ground weapons around me. But 24 hours a day, I was being hit with the, remote platform to satellite to cell phone tower to receiver, which is my brain. I'm trying to think of. Did you have any questions? I've been just talking really fast.
No, you're doing great. And it's interesting because you're getting into the technical parts of it. So, but I am just curious, like how you found, Linda and how you started your own podcast and how that all happened.
Okay, yeah. Well, I probably when I started making YouTube videos, I think the first TI that I talked to ever was Ken in Canada. It was either Ken in Canada. Yeah, I think Ken in Canada first, and we didn't know about any calls. Me and Ken didn't. So he commented on one of my videos, and then we started talking. He was the first TI that I met. And we just had a bunch of great conversations, and like he was going through hell. Then I think, around that time, around a couple months after that, where I was meeting some TIs and calling them individuals, I think I got in touch with Mike somehow. Me and Mike started talking. From either my videos or I don't think I stumbled across his call, but I think he saw my videos and he contacted me to tell me about his call. So that was around 2013 that I started getting on Mike's calls. But I was really just on Mike's calls till about 2015. For about 2 years, I would just go to Mike's calls. I'd do my videos, and I really didn't. I don't know. I just didn't go into the rest of the TI calls. But I do remember. I got on some of them. I got on the Saturday calls sometimes. I'd get on the Saturday calls maybe every 2 Saturdays or something like that, or every other Saturday. And I'd hear Derek, so I knew I was getting on Derek's calls, I think, and Shelley, and then I started to get on those from like 2013 to 2015 when the house burned down. 15. Then I moved to a townhouse with that roommate who burned down my house. What's interesting about her and the other friend that was hanging around at the time is they would tell me, I'm getting hit in the chest right now. Like, she would be standing in the kitchen and she'd be like, oh my God, like I'm getting hit. And she wasn't joking or trying to pull my leg. She's like, I'm getting hit in the chest with something right now. But they didn't want to tell me though, and this is the weirdest thing, because they thought that it would inflame my delusions, but they felt it. So, I mean, go figure with people where they're feeling it and they're getting hit with it, but they still think that it's a delusion. People are so weird and they're so confused about all this stuff. I kind of got off the topic, but when I moved into the townhouse, that's when I started getting on a lot of the calls. That's when I started getting on the main Saturday night calls, on Mike's call, trying to find out about as many calls as I could. And I think I met Linda a long time ago on Mike's call. I probably met Linda, 2013, in the year 2013. So I knew Linda from Mike's calls, and Adrian, and Patty. Who else did he have coming to every call at that time? This guy named Ivan Rosa, who is a great TI, and he's kind of dropped off the mat. He has V2K really bad, and he's one of those people who he wants to help everybody, and if he can't help, he feels like he can't be in the group. I really need to talk to him more and get him back, because he's just so he's so into being positive and just trying to really trying to make people just like, screw these guys, let's go on with our life, let's do this. Probably some people I'm not, Corinne. Corinne was on all those calls, and she's not on the calls as much. I don't hear her on the calls as much, but we talked a whole lot because she was going through just a whole lot. She's still going through. And I'm forgetting to name some people, but really it started on Mike's calls, and I consider Mike to be my mentor about this. As I've gone through it, he really was a great he's a great help. And when I would freak out and be like, is this happening? Is this happening? Is this happening? He was really great at not saying, no, that's not happening. This is happening. He would say, well, think about this, and he'd just get me thinking about how stuff works. So he's really good at, like, when I was confused and, just stressed out and just like, I know it's this, at being really gentle, and going through, kind of getting me to think about it my own way. So I really appreciate my.
Yeah,
so great.
Mike's a great guy.
Oh, I did want to kind of go back, because the part of my story I just want to finish is, okay, I called the inspector general, told him that I thought I was being harassed by my neighbor. And the next day, I got a call from the coroner's office. And this man didn't tell me who he was, but he just said he was from the coroner's office. I told him, I actually told him, I gave him my YouTube video link, which I had made a couple of videos, maybe like 30 videos by then. And I told him, I've studied some of this. I think that I'm being hit by non-ionizing microwave radiation.
Right.
And he said, oh no, we know about all that. He's like, I know about all that. I'm a coroner. I know about all that stuff. He said, just need you to come into the. Yeah, he was lying. It was a setup. He said, just come into the emergency room, and we're gonna check you out physically. I got the specific doctor set up for you to see. You don't need to explain any of this. I'm gonna tell him the story. He just wants to check you out physically and make sure your body's all right. I said, oh my gosh, I finally found help. I found a way in. They're gonna acknowledge this. They're gonna be able to treat me medically. Oh my gosh. So I get my book back ready with my comic books and my drink, and I go to the emergency room. And I actually just saw the guy's nurse practitioner. He was like asking me all these questions that were trying to kind of sway it into this mental thing. And before I know it, I'm in a blue suit waiting to go behavioral center or the mental place, but the one where people can't take care of themselves. The one where they have to get help wiping and eating and things like that. So it was a total setup. And actually, while I was waiting to go in there, waiting to go to the one where it's like people can't take care of there's some mental retardation and things like that going on. Some lady, I asked the lady something about like getting some water, and she goes, "Go sit down. You ain't being hit by a ray gun." That was like in the main hospital. One of the one of the nurses, the intake nurses, said that to me. But then once I got into the place, it was like people were like strapped in the back, like strapped down because they were so insane. But I had this psychiatrist who was logical, and she wasn't a part of anything to do with this.
Right.
She talked to me, and I told her, and I was pretty eloquent, even though I was upset. But I try and just talk about it intelligently, connect common sense dots with people, just tell the truth, and she, after about 3 days, she got me out of there to the regular short-term behavioral center, where it was mostly people, getting off of drugs, some other psychological disorders, but they could take care of themselves, they could eat, and stuff like that. And I stayed there for 2 weeks. And my parents would come visit me, and my mom kind of used it for, hey, we've got these terms set, and if you can match these terms, we'll go ahead and get you out of here. So my mom kind of really thought that I was crazy, and she said, if you get rid of that enclosure in the middle of your kitchen, and you do this and you do that, and you work more days and stuff like that. So it was really, really horrifying to see them react to something like that. My parents react to something like that, where I was being murdered, and also when I was in the short-term behavioral center, my attackers hit me harder. They hit me in the prostate to where I went into shock, and they also hit me in the chest, where like I'd be in meetings for people because they wanted me to look crazy, so I couldn't get out. They hit me real hard in the chest. They were putting me into shock with these hits they were hitting me with in the short-term behavioral center. But eventually, what I did is I just lied. I lied to my parents and I said, "Yeah, I just need to get over this stuff. I'll take down the enclosure, just to get out of there." I kind of said, at first I was kind of holding my ground. And I was like, this is happening. This stuff is happening, Mom and Dad. I'm being hit by some kind of microwave, non-ionizing microwave radiation. It's burning my body. It's really, really hurting me. But then after I knew that they were gonna, kind of try and keep me in there, I lied to get out. I said, yeah, I'll just get over this, and yeah, I'll take down the enclosure, which I didn't. One weird thing that happened in there is the really nice psychiatrist. It was a woman psychiatrist who seemed to really be listening to me, and I was really kind of telling her the truth, and she was just kind of listening to me and gathering information. She went on vacation 2 days after I got put into the other place. And so they assigned me to a pediatrician psychologist, a pediatric psychologist. That guy, the whole time, every time I would talk to him, he would have this huge smirk on his face. And he actually would. I said, my neighbor's hitting me with some kind of high pitched sound. Like they want me out of that area. Maybe they've heard rumors about me. And I didn't go into the whole organized gang stalking program. But I tried to keep it small. I tried to keep it small and just tell him, somebody's hitting me with some kind of new age taser or some kind of equipment because I think they've heard rumors and they want me out of that house. It's really weird, and he's really doing it. And he smiled. This pediatric psychiatrist smiled, and he said, "Kyle, that guy who lives next to you, he's probably just a good old boy watching LSU games. If he had a problem with you, he would walk over to your house with a bat. He'd walk over to your house with a bat and hit you with that." And I was like, no, he wouldn't. If somebody could, hurt you or antagonize you and get you to do something, they would obviously try and hide it. They were evil. But that was just the most interesting thing that he said. And as he, had his little smirk, and I think I really do. I'm not sure sometimes, but I really think that pediatric psychiatrist was part of it. He was brought in there to kind of just, handle me. Also, there was another guy who I saw when I was in there who had an Army shirt on. He came in with an Army shirt, and he said that he had tried to kill himself and stuff like that. And we were watching Forrest Gump one night, like in the movie room, and I cried during Forrest Gump. It's a sad movie. And so I was walking around, and I kind of walked by the room later on, and he's talking on the phone, and he's like, yeah, he was crying during Forrest Gump. I can't believe it. He was crying during Forrest Gump. And then, like, a couple of days later, he got out of there. I mean, he tried to commit suicide, and yet he was on, like, a 3-day stay. There's some very, very, very weird things while I was in there. I think that they were trying to accomplish, right off the bat. When they get you in there, they kind of want to go after you. So maybe you have to stay longer, or you act out and get in more trouble. But then I guess then moving forward back to the townhouse, then I moved to the to a condo in kind of across town, and then a condo across the way in this condominium unit. And I think that by the time I hit the townhouse, I think that I was on full remote torture. I think that I don't think that I had any ground weapons on me. They tried to make it seem like that, like the neighbors. They try and put it in an angle coming down so that I thought it was think by that point, it was fully remote. It was fully from cell phone towers, from the remote station by satellites and cell phone towers to the receiver that is my brain. But I've had harassment around me since then, and a ton. It seems like they got maybe the power for the remote hits, and they didn't need to supplement with ground weapons, or they had traumatized me to a certain point where they could proceed with the program and remote neural manipulation and synthetic telepathy and emotional kind of manipulation. But there was something. I think Ella dropped off, but I'm just going to keep talking until she comes back. I think the one thing that I want to tell you guys is that in about 2000, must have been 2014 or 2015, and now this was after continuous years of the high pitched sound all the time, the V2K all the time. Hit me in the chest to where I thought I was going to have a heart attack, hit me in the sides of the head, and burning half my body, it felt like. After extensive trauma, in about probably the end of 2014, I can peg a night. Like, I can go back to a specific night where they started, like, I would think something, and then they would project that image. Or they would re-inject an image that I had never seen before. Now, I had directed dreaming before that. I'd had directed dreaming probably since 2012. But in the beginning of 2015, I can go back to that exact night and say they were starting to re-inject images with remote neural I'd never seen before. And that was at a very specific time. I wonder if I just noticed it. Or I wonder if what I'm saying is actually true. Because, I know that when you're not aware of these things going on, like not aware that they can, re-inject an image into your head, you would think that you're just thinking about that over and over. And so I wonder if I just wasn't aware of it. I knew that they could, because V2K was responding to things that I would think. Like I would think things, so they were getting the inner at. Cece's asking, Kyle, were you or either of your parents in the armed forces? No, my grandpa fought in World War II. He was a naval engineer that he went to, I think, Okinawa. But no, my dad, my mom are not in the military, and I was not either. Thought about it. I guess that's kind of all. Maybe I could take some questions. Maybe some people have some good questions. Let's try Cece. Cece, you there? Hello,
Hi there.
Cece?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear
I thought
me?
I couldn't hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. I was unmuting people and I couldn't hear them, and I was wondering if that was because of something I was doing. I was not sure.
I actually have a couple of quick questions for you. And one is, okay, you didn't have any parents that were in the armed forces and you weren't. And then the next was, do you remember anything from grade school, grade 1 through 6, that you can look back on today that you might think to yourself, I wonder if that had anything to do with me being targeted? With an adult, not with other children.
No, when I was 10, I got very sick with Crohn's disease. So I had to go on a feeding tube. I even had to get a PICC line put in. So I had to go from the age of like 10 to 12. I was like in and out of hospitals. So that kind of makes me suspicious. Also, when I was a baby, I was born sickly, where I really weird incident where the the person they were getting to take care of me like locked herself in a room with me for like 2 days and wouldn't and would not open the door.
And how old were you then?
I was just born. I mean, I was maybe like almost a month old. But
Wow.
when I was a baby, I was very, very sick. And it was like I got better, but then the lady who was taking care of me like locked herself in a room and wouldn't open the door. So those two things, like when I was a baby, I was sickly and weird stuff happened, and then at about the age of 10, I had Crohn's disease and had to do all this, weird stuff, colonoscopies and a PICC line and a feeding tube and all this other stuff. So
wow.
I think somewhere in there, I may have gotten the hardware for this, then maybe been an early age to about the age of 19. Then at the age of 19, started having horrible pain on my left side, where they kind of bumped me up to, okay, we're going to go ahead and give him some kind of pain stimuli. And then that lasted, and weird things kind of went on. And then the full-blown, like, tinnitus sound, V2K, gang stalking just building up around you, that all began in about the end of 2010, 2011.
Okay. Have you ever had a panic attack?
Yes. Okay. I've had
How
weird
often
ones
have
too.
you had those?
Well, I've had them from about all that stuff that happened with my Crohn's disease.
Okay.
Then I started having weird panic attacks. There was this one time in college, which is really weird. It's really weird that you asked this question, CC, because I've thought about that a lot. My attackers now, I know that they can make me feel like
anything,
anxiety.
Yeah. They can make you feel.
But I was in college, and there was this big college class, and they were asking us our favorite movies, because I was in the radio, television, and film, program. And my favorite movie was Batman at the time, and I didn't feel like, I wasn't nervous to talk in front of the class or anything like that. And it was just naming your favorite movie, and like I started talking, and it's almost like my throat closed up, and I had this horrible anxiety attack out of nowhere.
Yep.
And I can remember a couple of times like that. Yeah.
And then one other thing, I could go on. What I'm doing is asking you things that have happened to me when I didn't back then know anything about. This was long ago that I had something in grade school happens. I remember another TI saying, no matter when you think your targeting began, go back another 10 or 20 years and see if there was anything strange that happened. And so I've been thinking about that as time goes by. And I remember when I was younger, in my 20s, I had a couple of panic attacks at home. And I would, anyway, this isn't my day to talk about me. So, and then once in a store, and I was in a changing room trying something on, and boom, I had a panic attack, and I thought, what is going on? Anyway, but also, have you ever been in the middle of a conversation, you're looking at the person, and then all of a sudden your brain goes blank, and you're thinking, what the hell was I just saying?
Oh yeah, I mean, just in this little interview, it happened about 3 times, and I mean that's what happens with that, CC, is our short-term memory is very affected, and when you're talking to somebody, you're using your short-term memory because you have something up on bat that you want to talk about. So that's, I mean, when we're talking and we're like bringing up things that are on deck, the next thing to talk about, that's our short-term memory. And, without even remote neural manipulation direction, and they do screw with short. Without that, non-ionizing microwave radiation and non-ionizing radio frequencies, radio frequency radiation causes short-term memory loss. So we've got something natural from these electromagnetic frequencies that's occurring biologically, and then on top of that, you've got your attackers remote neural manipulating and messing with your short-term memory.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I can think of right now. But I remember something when I was in first grade. I was 6 years old. I and another little boy were called out of our first grade classroom and taken down to the principal's office. And we sat in a room with a lady who just had us identify the pictures of animals. And, okay, giraffe, dog, cat, cow, whatever. And even as a first grader, I thought, what was that all about? And we were sent back. And then I was taken out once again. I don't know if it was a week or two or month or whatever later, and went through the same thing. And I to this day, wondered why. Why did that happen? Were they calibrating my EEG? Was I put in that room for them to, maybe they have some sort of equipment or technology that grabbed my EEG back then? Why was I singled out?
I've heard a lot of TIs talk about things like that, like weird special things that they were taken from their parents, not like stolen from their parents, but some people would come in and say your child is special and needs to do some testing. Talk about that. Yeah. I think back to just regular testing, like math that you'd have to do, within 5 minutes you'd have to do a certain number of problems, SATs, ACTs, like scholastic testing every year. I think back to just some of those organized testing things and wonder if they're trying to figure out stuff in those, to who they're going to need to target in the future, or who they need to watch.
Well, the one time that I was in the middle of a conversation, I was also in my early 20s. I was in the middle of a lengthy conversation with someone, standing outside of a store, just shooting the breeze with a friend. And my mind went blank, and I looked at him and I said, "Oh my God, I don't know what I just said to you. I don't know what our conversation was about. What were we talking about?" And I was so embarrassed because I didn't know anything, or I didn't remember anything regarding our conversation. And now that I look back on it, I wonder if I was being manipulated back then, because that is the only time that happened back then, like in my early years, like in my 20s. But but then I did have a few panic attacks, and I didn't know why I was having panic attacks. They just started happening out of nowhere, and I would, in order to get myself through it, and I would say to myself, "There's nothing to be afraid of." I didn't know why I was panicking, and so I would start cleaning the house. In fact, I remember one time getting down on my hands and knees with a scrub brush and cleaning the floor to try to distract myself from the panic that I was in. So, and then
I've had a lot of that.
They just stopped. Thank God. I mean, I remember saying to my mother, "Something's wrong." I remember saying, "Something's wrong. I get panic attacks and I don't know why." And I remember my mom just looking at me, and I don't remember her saying anything. But shortly thereafter, they just stopped. They disappeared, and I never had them again. And then when I was, that's not true. So that was my, I'd say I was like 18 or 19 then, maybe 20. And then when I moved out to California, I was 24. And when I got here, I was living in my friend's house, and I was in my bedroom, and all of a sudden I had this intense feeling of anger. And I thought, what the heck am I angry about? It didn't make sense. And I remember walking out into the dining room, and either she or her husband or both of them were there, and I said, "I am angry, and I have no idea why." And I don't remember that we talked about it at length, or I couldn't figure it out. But so that's that. I wonder if they were targeting me back then with emotions, so to speak. But anyway.
Yeah, I think that I look back too, and some decisions that I made Didn't seem like decisions that I would have usually made. And also, I like a girlfriend that I broke up with in about 2005. I could not stop thinking of her for about 2 years. It wasn't some kind of obsessive where I stalked her or anything, but I just could not let go of that, and I thought it was just severe heartbreak. But now I'm looking back on it, and it seems like it was, remote neural manipulation, and it was without the high pitched sound, without V2K, to where I had trauma and pain physical on me, but no weird sounds. So I wonder sometimes about this remote neural manipulation, that if you're not aware of it, that if it can run silent and inject impulses without needing to, to traumatize you while it's doing it.
So anyway, that goes to show you that, I didn't learn about targeting until 2014 after I had been, gone through trauma, been brutally maimed in medical procedures and whatnot. But when I think about she was a soldier, I forget what her name was. I want to say McKinsey or something. I think it was her that said, no matter when you think your targeting began, go back 10 or 20 years, and there was anything there. And, maybe we were targeted since birth. Who knows? I used to get earaches and knee aches all the time, and then my dad took me to an ear specialist, and they use those little steel things they bang at the bar, and then you listen to the sound, and they put stuff over your ears, and they look in your ears to see if you have tumors or whatnot, and nothing was there, and then I never got earaches anymore. So it was like they just wanted to, I don't know, see if my parents would take me to the doctor or what, I don't know. Or maybe they stop inducing pain in certain situations because, there's, the doctors will say, well, I don't know why you're having pain. It doesn't make sense to me. So, I've checked everything out. There's nothing there. You shouldn't be having pain. Who knows what their procedure is, but awful, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to let somebody else take on some questions for you. Thank you so much.
All right, Cece, and I'll unmute you later when we just have a free talk.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Cece.
All righty.
Coming to Linda C.
Hi, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle.
I kind of like this opportunity because I'd like to know what other guys that I've been around for a long time, what they would want to know.
Well, boy, thank you for telling us about your story. I enjoyed two things I want to say. The guy who told you about the dog and the shock collar.
Yeah.
My God, what a threat that was. And I notice that he waited until after the cops said, don't call us again, and then he really did threaten you.
Yep. Yeah. And I look back. I kind of look back and I'm thinking, maybe he was just like I saw a ground weapon. I'm thinking maybe that was part of the PSYOP so that, getting hit remotely 24 hours a day, and he was kind of helping, but they wanted me to think he was doing all of it. It was to keep my attention focused on him.
Yeah, well, he was one cruel creep, it sounds like. Also, I want to say that your ability to stay steadfast with what you know and what you know is going on, even in the face of your parents, is not saying you're not going to get out of the mental hospital until you agree to these things, and they have not been very helpful with you over the years. And the fact that I'm delighted they now heard the Cuba thing, and now they're like, oh, maybe it is true. But good for you for staying steadfast to your own, true to yourself, because you knew what was going on, and you,
and that's so important for us, and it's also not just about like this is the truth, so there's no other thing to do. I mean, what choice do we have? There's we can't. Okay, well, I'm crazy because y'all say I'm crazy, and then nothing gets done, and people keep getting murdered. But there's also an aspect of this, Linda. We will be vindicated. Like, people aren't always going to be like, I'm questioning them. There will be a time where people know about this technology and will be vindicated. So we've got to say things now with strength that people look back and they say, look, that guy spoke out when nobody believed him, you know, because that time is coming. So we've also got, you got that. You'll look really good when this does come out and we are vindicated. People will be like, wow, he didn't care. He was just telling the truth.
Exactly.
We all need to kind of think about that angle.
You know, I hear this a lot, and I've always thought it's important. I think I'm always true to myself, but we have to stay there. We have to stay true to our knowledge, what we know. And you are a perfect example of doing that no matter what. No matter, even though your parents are saying, we're going to leave you here unless you agree to this, you know, all of that. You stayed in there anyway, and good for you, Kyle.
It hurts. It hurts, but, you know, my parents have helped me so much, you know, financially. You know, even though they thought that I was crazy, they still supported me and loved me and didn't abandon me. So there's kind of a balance there. It's like it's heartbreaking that they don't believe me, but, you know, my parents will always be there for me, you know, even if,
that is nice, and I'm delighted you have them. It's just that you stayed true to yourself, though. You didn't give in, and good for you. We all need to take a lesson from that, I think. Stay
well,
true to
you're
ourselves,
great, too.
No matter what.
You're staying true. You're staying true and
I am.
going through it, too.
Yeah.
Linda, do you remember when I got on Mike's calls, were you on there?
Yeah, I've been on Mike's calls for quite a while. I've been around, actually, I think it was probably more like 2014, because I was more around then. I started, well, maybe that's not true. I started my call in 2015. So maybe it was 2013, because I was around for quite a while before I did my own call. So, yeah, I was there. I remember you.
Okay, yeah, because I remember that. I remember it was like me, you, Corinne, Mike. It was like kind of the Cheers group, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody, we all knew each other. That's what really got me through it in the beginning.
Well, and Mike has gotten me through too. I agree. He's a great lead. He's great. He brings.
And he knows.
Go ahead.
Person that's like, no, you're wrong, and I know this or this. He just gets you thinking about things that can help you. You know, to get through it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's my mentor.
He makes it make sense. You know, he makes it make sense. It's like, well, how about thinking about this? And it's like, oh, yeah, maybe that's it, you know? I mean, that's what I appreciate about him, too. Yeah, I remember our calls. They were good old calls.
Those were.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just stayed on that call, and I didn't really venture out, you know, I listened to Saturday night calls a little bit, but I was kind of like, this is all I need for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't. I did my videos, and I didn't really, you know, get into the whole community till later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and thank God you did, because everybody loves you. I mean, you are really, everybody loves you, and everybody appreciates you and respects what you do.
Ditto, Ella. I mean, ditto, Linda. Ditto.
Thanks.
Ditto.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to see if anybody else has a question.
Yeah.
Let me see. The numbers I don't think are correct here. Dr. Sean? You there? Dr. Sean? Dr. Andrews? What's going on with Ella? Maybe he's texting her. I'm going to send her another text. I told her to text me and let me know if everything was okay. All right, Sean, I'm going to mute you up, but then I'm going to unmute you. Just press *8. And then we will go to Cacti. Hey, Cacti. You there? Cacti. Am I not hearing some people?
No, you hear me.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah, right. I'm out of the loop right now.
Well, I mean, did you want to ask me a question about, like, on my targeting or something specific?
I think I knew something at one point in time, but I don't know it right now. Yeah. I'm lost.
What about
Sorry.
what part? What thing are you most interested in? Like V2K, remote neural manipulation, remote neural monitoring.
As far as the V2K, I don't fully understand because I don't have it. Thank God, knock on wood.
Yeah. Get on your knees and pray and thank God.
No, seriously, I have no idea what the hell happened with me if that would happen. I have no clue. Mm-hmm. I do believe it happens, but I don't fully understand how that would occur. I have really vague. I have nothing to say, to be honest.
Well, just hey, I'll mute you back, and if you think of something, just press. And I'll definitely unmute you when we're just doing a free talk. Is that cool?
Yeah, that works.
All right, Khaki. I'll talk to you in a little while.
All right, man.
All right, we're going to go down to the Florida Panhandle. Is that you, Jackie?
Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Jackie. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. You know what I'm going to say. You were the
first
person who...
yeah.
For me. You were that person for me. I listened to one other person other than you, and it was the guy that was talking about the helicopters and the reptilian things. And,
Richard Bruce?
Yeah, so I think that...
Yeah.
So I saw his, and then I saw some other people who were, like, really angry and really scared, and it made me more scared, and you were the first person that actually made me feel better about this whole situation, as best as you could possibly be. It's kind of like you're a guy with two ingredients. Here's a half a cup of Energizer Bunny. Here's a couple of drops of Superman. That's what it is for me. So I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you.
I'm happy to hear that, Jackie, because you add so much to the community. And you're so smart, and you collect a lot of evidence, and I'm glad to hear that I inspired you, because now you're inspiring other people. I mean, that's really what it's all about. It's just about, whenever you make a video, you got to think it's about the information, right? It's about getting information out to non-TIs and TIs, but it's also about, what TI is going to see how you're talking. They're going to connect with that and be like, I can talk about the stuff like that. That could empower me, to do what he's doing or to do what she's doing. And that's really, that's kind of why I make so many videos, like 600 videos. And I think that what we get out, the evidence or testimonials or information about websites or information about patents, it's all so important when you put out a video to put out good information. But I also have a philosophy that quantity is also important.
Yeah. That is.
Where.
I like the fact that you're taking this challenge on, and then it might be one video that someone might relate to of all the 30 videos that you do in November. It might be one video that somebody out there just catches, and that's brilliant.
Well, and also, I didn't know that this was going to happen. I thought that my targeting would get a whole lot worse, and I'd feel more depressed and tired because I thought they'd be hitting me harder. Now, they have tried to hit me a little bit harder, and I'm switching up my routine. Instead of just playing video games all day, going to the supermarket, the same thing that they've been monitoring for months and months and months and months, I feel better emotionally because I'm switching up my routine too. So I really didn't foresee that happening. And it's also kind of, I'm kind of stretching myself on what can I talk about here? What are the most important things that people need to know about, so that after November, I'm still going to make videos, and it'll making better videos, kind of stretching my limits,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so happy that I got you, like, you saw my videos and wanted to come in the community, and it got you making videos because you are a huge player. I mean, you're a huge player.
I appreciate that. I got that. I just want to be as good as you one day. That's it.
Well, it doesn't take much to do that,
Thank you, Kyle.
Well, thank you too, Jackie. I really appreciate all the hard work you do too. All right, you want me to mute you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, I'll unmute you when we just have a free talk.
Okay.
All right, Jackie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and we're going to come down to, before I come to Connecticut, I just want to say, I don't know if everybody knows about it, but I'm doing, I'm doing the November video. I've called it at first November Video Bomb 2017, but I changed that name to November Video Marathon 2017 because the word bomb in every YouTube title could maybe get me in trouble or get more watch. Y'all know how it is. But, my plan is to make a video at least one every day. I might switch it around so I do like maybe 2 or 3 in a day, and then I do take some days off. But to do 30 or more videos for the month of November, and it's a lot of new things. I think I'm going to talk to some TIs who don't want to make a video and just want to give me their testimony, and then I can bring out their testimony. Like that. So it's really been great, and if anybody wants to participate and doesn't really know how, please email me at vulcanwolverine@gmail.com. And you can be part of it however you want to fit in, whatever you want to do, whatever information you want to put out. If you want to talk to me about planning, putting out the same information on one day, we can do something like that. So I really welcome that too. But it's just kind of a challenge and a marathon to get people a symbol for us never to stop talking about this, getting out good information, and keep showing people that this is happening because we're being tortured every day. Hey, Connecticut, is that Connie? You there?
I am, Kyle. I was just trying to get unmuted before when you were asking if people could hear you or not.
Okay. Well, any question about any? Because I know I'll go through the story, and there's so much to tell that I know I'm missing stuff. It's like I know that I'm skipping over parts.
Well, I was listening to you, and I can relate to some things that you said. How they're going after your back and then your head and. Yeah, in the heart all the time, and now it's like remote. It's like they don't, there's the groundmen, they have their duties, but it's different now for me too. So it's direct. I feel the same way, but.
And and who is this? This isn't Connie, right?
No, it's Mary.
Hey, Mary, Mike just sent me a text. He made me remember something that I didn't tell him my story. Because he knows me, I made this video called Lamentations on YouTube, and it was after my dad got sick. And I did want to tell y'all about this. The only person that I talked to about my targeting and all the weird stuff that was going on was my dad, and he was trying to help me out, like with money, with maybe getting a lawyer or something like that. Now, I had my 33rd birthday, and I had been targeted, full scale with the tinnitus sound, the V2K for about 3 years. The day after my 33rd birthday, the day after, my dad started having ringing in his ears and headaches. After a week of these of nausea, headaches, a high-pitched sound in his ears, he had an aneurysm. My dad had an aneurysm, and he was rushed to the room. And I remember going over the house. My mom called us because he was just non-responsive. His eyes were open, holding my dad in my arms with his eyes just looking at me, but he couldn't speak or he couldn't, he couldn't get through to us because he was having an aneurysm. And my attackers were hitting me with microwaves in my genitals at that time.
Oh, my God. I went through the same thing with my mom. And they didn't know what to do. And I was like, well, you need to do something. What's happening to her? And then they called 911, and I had to have her intubated and everything else, but she's getting it too. She's in a nursing home, and they're clobbering her too, but they've never given us a good explanation of what happened. And she's just starting to come around again. This is since March, like being herself, if you will, personality-wise, but the same thing. Oh, my God, the eyes trying to tell me, like, I don't know what just happened, but something just happened. And,
yeah, that's such a helpless feeling.
Clobbered. Oh, it's horrible. They're so freaking evil. I'm sorry you had to go through that, too.
Yeah,
I'm so happy you're on the call. Everybody loves you. You're such a good guy, and there is something about you. You know, you're just special. You have the voice, and you just really appreciated in the community. So thanks for all you do, and we love you.
Hey, thanks, Mary. Like, I love you guys, too. My whole thing is just, I want to end this. Like, I want to bring the technology out enough. Just so I mean, you know, it may be by increments. You know, some resources may be pulled from this program, and they might not be able to do all the things that they want to do to us for a while, and then, you know, they may pull back by increments, or it may, you know, totally cut off one day. But I feel like it is possible. It is possible to end this program with enough awareness to where, you know, the media and the people doing this, they're going to kind of look at everybody talking it like as a household topic and be like, well, there's really no use covering it up. Now it's time to pull out and do something else. You know, so I think we have a big chance. We just have to speak out and keep speaking out.
Yeah. Yeah, something's got to be done. This can't keep going on, you know.
Yeah, and we also, I mean, we also need the class action suits. We need the surveys, the conferences, you know, passing out flyers. Like, we need to talk to local legislators, all that stuff. But it's like, you know, while people are doing that and while we're getting those big things ready, if we're always talking about it on social media and have this groundswell going and talking about good ideas on the calls and how to defend, how to buy time, you know, also just good, you know, good email campaigns or calling certain people, like it'll lay that groundwork so it's more successful, you know, when people go talk to local legislators or set up a class action suit. So it's so important to do this in between time, you know, keep talking about it, you know.
Yeah, there you go. I think the thing with Cuba is really good for us too. What happened, you know, they keep denying all this stuff, but I think,
and you know what I
the
said?
times now, I've been saying it for the past couple of months. We all got to do something. Something's got to break.
Oh yeah, and you know, I said it on I said it on a call in another video. I said, you know, how come 21 State Department workers, even though everybody doesn't know exactly what's going on, the 21 State Department workers say they have concussive effects and high-pitched ringing sound in their ears. They get medical attention, and agencies look into it. Now we've got thousands and thousands of targeted individuals around the world speaking out. We probably got millions and millions of targeted individuals in actuality. But those thousands and thousands speaking out and saying exactly what those State Department workers said, and they can throw us into a mental institution. You know, we need to start connecting the dots in a common sense way to normal people, that why did those people get medical attention, and they're going to look into that, and we're saying the exact same thing, and we'll be thrown into a mental institution. How come the double standard there, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, Mary. Well, I'll unmute you when we just have a you know, when I open up the lines.
Okay. All right, that's good. I'm just enjoying listening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I got a lot of people. I want some good questions. You want to know? I'm trying to go by the numbers. There are one. I think there's a one. I see it. Florida. Hey, Florida. You there, Florida? All right, I'm going to mute you, but press *8 if you still want to ask a question. All right, and I'm going to go to West Coast Angel. How are you doing tonight? You there? Okay, I'm going to mute you, but press *8 if you still have a question. I'm wondering if I'm not hearing these guys. TSS? You there? Oh, I guess not. All right, we'll go down to... Who's next? We'll go to Donna. Hey, Donna. You there?
Hey, Kyle. You know, I agree with so many people. I think all the suffering that you've been through in your life has just absolutely made you so sweet and sensitive to other people. And people just really respond to the realness of you and that caring. I have sort of a double question here. I always wonder, you know, it seems like that there is a nucleus of people that always speak on the calls. It doesn't seem like, you know, we hear of all these numbers of people that are targeted, but it doesn't seem like that we hear from a lot of different people. What I'm wondering is, where are all these people? How are all these people making it? And then I'm going to say this, and then maybe you can put the whole thing together. What would you have done if you had not have had the support of your parents? Have you ever thought about how that might have gone?
If I didn't have,
right,
I'd be homeless. I'd be living in my car.
You little bitch. This ain't no fucking game, man, where you can spitbox on Facebook and think you safe, nigga. Right.
Oh, who's that?
You picked the wrong goddamn one, homeboy. This dirty white boy right here, homeboy. You know anywhere you go, you fuck now. Go eat that dog.
Who's that?
It's TSSTAFFA. It looks like yeah, I always notice.
Go to Walmart, homeboy.
Oh, yeah. You can still make sound.
Sounds like a drug addict.
Yeah, it sounds like a gangster drug addict. It looks like he's muted
so I know
for
I
now.
was kind of just really putting the lot out there for you to think about, that it's kind of all-encompassing, actually.
Well, I think, you know, they got the whole echo going. I think that, like, there are other groups, you know, there are Facebook groups, and there are other conference calls, but, you know, what my main instinct on it is people really don't want to, they're feeling very paranoid, and they've been by so many people that they would be scared to come into a big group because they kind of think there's a lot of COINTELPRO and things like that, which there are. But I think that they're a little bit scared of that, so they hang around the edges. They may comment on YouTube videos or maybe make some of their own YouTube videos. They may come visit the calls but not stay long because they just have a different view, and I think it's a lot of TIs.
I just wonder what their lifestyle is. You know, I mean, I know what I went through, and oh wow, I mean, I would have been dead if I hadn't kept going the way I was going. And I just wonder how many people are like that.
I think there are a lot that are out there right now living in cars and they're not connected to the community. And they may make a YouTube video here or there, but there may be some who don't even have that. You know, they know that there's a larger community, but they're maybe being tortured so that they're kind of afraid to come and talk about it on the calls. I think there's a lot, I mean, thousands and thousands of TIs, maybe more than that, who are just, they're living a horror, like, a horrible nightmare day to day. And I think that's the kind of people who, well, some of them, a small percentage, like 0.001%, who we hear some shootings about that, where they can't get connected to a group and they don't feel safe with anybody, And then you got that 0.001% of those people who, happens. I think the majority of people who don't get hooked up to a group or aren't really trying to stop it and are kind of confused as to what's going. They're just being attacked by mobs and weapons, and they don't really know. I think they end up, maybe living in their cars. I think a lot of them end up in mental institutions for the unforeseen future.
Well, it's amazing to me. I knew a lot of people, a whole lot of people, and I still know them. But I think people just feel so inadequate about, well, what can I do to help?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me like that aspect needs to be put out there to people, how they can help the targeted individual.
Yeah, and that's what, that's what my parents say. They say, well, we believe you, but what can we do? We feel helpless. We can't do anything. And me and Terry were talking about it. It's like I guess what we have to say to them is just be there, just believe me, and just be there for me. That's number one. But if you want to go further, say, help me create awareness about it. Call some local news stations and say, you've heard about this targeting thing, or, maybe, and hand out some flyers for me, support the activism of bringing this out into the public,
Right, and I think, I don't know if it could ever happen, but, TIs at least living in proximity of each other more, whereas if one was getting hit really serious, rather than be walking around looking for it or, in their car or whatever, to be able to go over and sleep on someone's couch and then vice versa. Mix it up, and then wouldn't the perpetrators have a much harder time hurting everybody? Or is that in a perfect world?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've been around another TI. They kind of just stayed with his stuff on him, and I got my attacks, and they didn't really cross over. But then I heard about, like Brian Coffrin went to stay with Desiree, and her targeting had almost completely disappeared. And then because he's around, she started getting targeted extra hard. So I think it just depends on the people who, are attacking the TIs. Are they gonna decide to work together, and try and work people against each other, or are they just gonna stick to those people's individual programs? I think sometimes that's kind of a crapshoot,
Yeah, it does feel like it.
I mean, I don't know. I've never lived with another TI, but I've hung around another TI, and I didn't get anything of what he was getting, and he didn't get anything that I was getting. There was no cross hits or anything like that.
Yeah, you both look like you're nuts.
Yeah.
It's a double whammy for sure.
Yeah. I would think, because I was thinking about, there was a time when there was a TI who was going to come stay with me, and I was thinking it would be better because at least we could talk about it together. When gang stalkers saw us together, it wouldn't just be either of us wouldn't be just isolated. So they would think twice about the gang stalking two people, and it would maybe confuse things with the program. So I think that we need to do it. We need to live close to each other. If not with each other, we need to live like in the same area, so we can be there to help each other physically,
So are people trying to move toward that more?
I think so. I mean, right now, okay, I'm in Louisiana. I know a couple of other TIs, and I've let one of them stay with me for a while. Like, he did stay with me for a while, but it was just kind of like, the same things that he was getting before he came were happening to him. Same thing that was happening to me before was happening to me. So right now, it's like I'm just trying to kind of hold down my own stuff. And I know of the TIs in my area, but they're not looking to do anything like that. But then again, you've got that guy, who's that, Michael Sweeney?
Yeah.
Where he's got a place where he talks to TIs, and they're all living in a community. I mean, I think that he has that up and running.
There were two communities. One he left, and then I think he has a few people living there wherever this other one is.
Right. It's very he has to through a very stringent process of elimination. He only lets specific TIs in. I feel like we should have something a little bit better than that.
It sounds pretty primitive.
Yeah.
One lady, I don't know if his is that primitive, but one of the TI women was involved that way, and I mean, she's like pioneer, living off the land, and just, I don't know if she's getting her water from the stream or what, but it sounded pretty hard.
Mhm. I don't know. So, we need to start moving that way, though. Like living near each other. It's hard for us all because our finances are bad, and and so it's hard to just pick up and go somewhere.
Yes, I do know. Yeah. Well. Thank you, and I appreciate your interview. It's really good, and so thanks a lot for everything.
All right, I really appreciate you. And I'll go ahead. I'll unmute you whenever we just start having an open call, and I'm gonna have an after call tonight, so probably try and finish these questions out, and then we can move over to my room.
Okay.
All right, Donna. Thank you so much. All right. All right. Let's go to who is next. Who will ask a very good question? Ask me anything. Don't hold back. Anything you'll want. Go to West Maryland. Marilyn, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey.
Cal?
Do you have a question or something you wanted to talk about?
I do have a question. My name is Cheryl. I'm new to the community. Still trying to figure things out here.
Yeah.
But I thank you so much for what you're sharing. I kind of stumbled on the community as a whole because I was so frantic. Everything started for me probably when I realized what was going on. It was the last week in May. I had just moved to a brand new apartment. I don't want to go into all of that because my question is this. I did get out of the lease that I was in, and I'm actually in a transition home to look for a new place to live. And I was just wondering, how do you even begin to figure out a place to go when you know that this program's going to follow you wherever you go?
Well, that's the thing, Cheryl. I've moved, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And in those 5 times that I've moved, it's only really gotten worse. You know, they've moved it to entirely hitting me with remote, like from cell phone towers and not many ground weapons, but I've never been able to move and get away from it.
Yeah.
But I think, like, I don't know. It's like you gotta kind of use your own instincts, and
right.
you know, I think it was a good idea. You know, when I moved away from that house where some of the neighbors were helping, I think that was actually remote. They were hitting me remotely, and it still hurt me just as much. But at least I knew that people around me weren't. You've got to kind of cater your own situation to what you think is happening. Like if another lady on the call the other night, she was in an apartment. She heard something above her, and they're moving it around and hitting her very hard. Then she moved to another place in the same apartment complex, and she heard the same exact thing, and they were still hitting her that hard. So she thinks in her head, okay, they just moved the equipment to that apartment and they're doing the same thing. But in my head, I'm thinking with V2K, that like my room above me is empty. There's nobody that lives there. But they can make it sound like somebody's moving equipment up there. They can make it sound like he's walking around. I mean, and it sounds very real. I mean, they're throwing the sound to where it sounds like there is a guy walking up there. Stuff is so tricky. The moving thing. But I've heard about. You know, I've heard success. There is a success story. Dr. Matt, you know, moved from Canada down here because he had been targeted for. Like, how long have you been targeted, Cheryl?
You know, every time I think back, initially I thought. And then I thought back and I said, no, this started in January. I think back and I keep going further. I'm starting to wonder, this is something that began when I was actually a teenager or before, because there's just too many different things coming up as I listen to the community talk about their experiences. And I'm thinking, I've experienced this too, and it's just so odd and so strange. And I think that when I was born, I had a hernia operation at 6 months, and somewhat a sickly child. I listened to you talk about. However, I did go into the military. Served in the military for a short period of time. My family, you know, has served in the military, you know, to some capacity, not necessarily careers, but so I don't know. I just, right now, there's just so much information I'm trying to learn and so many things I'm trying to learn right now, and at the same time, you know, with the fierce attacks and things, just trying to survive. And then with your, you know, your finances getting hit here and there. It's been tough, but I'm just so thankful that you and others are out there where I can tune in. I did want to say, someone asked a comment about other TIs not participating. And I think that sometimes it's a little tough when you're brand new. You come on and, you know, it takes a while before someone gets to you to ask a question. And I have literally, things have been so fierce sometimes, I have literally fallen asleep. And not because I'm tired, it's just that you finally get some comfort out of voices, people who you hear their stories, and it just makes you feel more at ease, and you can relax a little bit and breathe a little bit, even though the attacks are still going on. So I've fallen asleep just trying to hang in there times, but
I fall asleep so many times with calls going and just leave it on, leave people talking on. And it's comforting, because we're isolated. I mean, I was able to kind of go out with friends and keep my social life for a couple of years, but the torture just got so bad, my body got run down to where this is the place that I come talk to people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but that was basically my question. I just thank you so much for coming in your story. It just illuminated a lot of things that I was just pondering in my mind, trying to put the pieces together. And so I'll keep listening to you.
Okay, Cheryl, and just if you want to get in touch with me, just email me at vulcanwolverine@gmail.com.
Okay, I will be doing that.
And I could maybe help you with some defenses or things that could just, like supplement.
Yes.
Or get you out Dave's CD. Dave's CD really, really helps to stop a lot of the stuff they're doing.
Okay. I think my mail has been interfered with as well. From Dave, and I haven't gotten it yet, and it's been 3 weeks almost.
Sometimes he takes a while because I think he's sending out so many. So I would just send him another text and say, hey, I haven't gotten mine. Are you still sending it out? He has so many to send out that, I remember it took a month to get mine from him.
Oh, okay, then.
Yeah, it took a long time. But when you get that, try and listen to it as much as you can in the beginning.
Okay.
And then when you start to get some relief, then at least for upkeep, listen to it all night long. Try and listen to it all night long.
All right, I will. Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Who has a good question? Good question. Southeast Michigan. Hey, Southeast Michigan. You there? Okay, Southeast Michigan, just press *8 again if you want to ask a question or add it. I'm going to go to Washington State. Is that you, Lonnie? You there? I think some people may have walked away from the phone.
Would that be Allie?
Allie, I'm sorry, Allie. I have it. Washington State.
Well, Kyle, it's just been absolutely incredible listening to you, and you are simply going through what you are and everything and becoming a hero warrior for the truth.
I think we all
what
are.
I would like to know, are you familiar with Builder Rejected? And the recent video they put out on October 20th about gang stalking and voice V2K testimony by a private security whistleblower. Who
was that Brian Coffrin?
I don't know because the fellow that Builder Rejected said, I'm not sure why, but he has a lawyer and pursuing his litigation. His website is still up with his real name and pseudonym, but I'm reluctant to share it here. So I added a ton and added. It's 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 56 seconds. And what really Pardon?
Is that the YouTube channel Builder Rejected?
Yeah, I guess it is YouTube. Because it says share. I don't see a YouTube on there. I just see a share for Facebook. But what really bothers me is in it, and of course he's here in Seattle, and that just scares the living, out of all of us around here, is that the gang stalkers are even stalked with V2K.
Yeah, I found that video. I think that is Brian Coffrin. that you're talking about. But he recently came out with some videos interviewing himself with a different accent, and the TI community, we need to listen to that. He may have been telling the truth, but lately he's been putting out stuff that's discredited him a little bit. I personally think that he's a TI who kind of came up with a TI.
He says he is.
Right. See, but he made a bunch of videos where he actually edited it up. He was like interviewing himself. So Brian Coffin would talk, and then he'd have himself using a Bostonian accent answering the questions. So he did some things that were a little bit discredited, and we're trying to figure out why he did that. So right now with his story, like his story is incredible, that he was a security guard and on the other side of all this technology. But now he's lost a little bit of credibility, especially with me. And I think that he did work at SIS, but I think he's just a normal TI who kind of thought it would be a good idea to say that SIS was doing all this. So we're still trying to kind of figure that out. I guess we still do need to listen to his information. It might be true. But just, I don't know, be careful with that one.
Well, thank you for the heads up on that. Because I do a lot on this wireless technology. I'm a former elected official, a water commissioner who, doing my due diligence, got into this way back early when they started putting smart meters and cell towers on water and sewer districts. And believe me, that's really taken me into a lot of places, including being involved with a couple, Josh DeSole and Cal Washington, and we now have gone public on our website, empowermovement.com, on how to fill out notices of liability. And I'm part of the SEED group in Seattle. There's two other groups, one in Kelowna, BC, one in Detroit, Michigan, that have been we're using this process of serving notice of liabilities on the people that are causing us harm, especially those installing the smart meters. So I've worked on this diligently, and now that I'm no longer an elected official and on my own, I'm all about safe, clean water, safe, clean energy, because it's the water and energy that sustain all living things, and that's Creator's way. And anybody who does not respect Creator's way needs to be taken down.
I think you're exactly right. I think that's awesome that y'all are. So what's the forum called?
Well, that's just my message that I've been delivering, and I have spoken to Ella in the past, but I speak on several telephone conferences with my messages about safe, clean water and safe, clean energy, because that goes down to impacting the blood and the cells in our blood and our water in our bodies. And you know that.
Can I ask you a question? What's your name? I'm sorry.
Allie.
Allie, can I ask you a question? Okay, so say a targeted individual has a smart meter on their house. What's the best way to get them to take that off and give them an analog meter? Would you know that? Would you?
Well, there is really no way, and they say that you can do an opt-out, but that's an illusion. Because if you live on an apartment building that has 40 apartments and 40 different smart meters, removing one of them won't make a difference. So that's completely an illusion. There's no way that you can stop it. But I think one thing that is interesting that I have just shared is now the disclaimer that insurance companies are now adding to their policies that they will no longer cover any fires or health problems or anything from the smart meters or that are attached to the homes.
Yeah, and you know about Lloyd's of London, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I'm very, very deep into this. Fortunately, we're all targeted because the whole world has been put into a microwave, but some of us worse than others, and you to an extreme amount, me very minimal. It's pretty amazing how people just can't wake up to this.
Yeah, and it's like the people who
I'll give you a good example. Where I have my car serviced at a Burien Toyota dealer, across the street in the road, there are 4 cell towers. When I was having my car serviced the other day, I walked across the street to First Stop Oil Pit, or First Pit Oil Stop, I don't know, a place where you get your oil changed, with my smog meter. And it was, right way up into the high range, danger zone. And the guys in the bays were kind of looking at me like, what's this crazy lady doing out there with that thing in her hand? So I walked over to him, and I just said to the fellows, are any of you getting sick? And one of them said, funny you'd mention that. Every time I come to work, I throw up 2 or 3 times.
Wow. Yeah.
So I handed them the public health warning cards about it, and hopefully woke those people up. But, yeah, it's basically, well, it is now in pending litigation in being called criminal assault by radiation.
We need to start calling them what they are, death towers.
It is. It's criminal assault by radiation, any way you look at it.
I agree with you. I go into town here. I've got a death tower about 300 yards in front of my condo, and then 200 yards behind me. And I'm pretty sure this is what, what's hitting me is being routed through those cell phone towers. But then I go into town, I go into these big places with supermarkets, all these little stores, like right on the corner where all this traffic comes through. There's this huge, like 3 huge towers right in the middle of it, where all these people work and drive by. And it's killing all of them. I mean, it's transmitting microwave non-ionizing radiation out to everybody.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting, and we had a situation where I live down below me. I live on a cliff, but below me is a beach and a marina, a beach park and a marina. And last summer, we became a hot spot for Pokemon Go.
Oh yeah, and that's the DHS fusion centers in Infragard. Basically, the way that they are harassing us, I think, is like a horror movie Pokemon Go.
Well, yes, and it got to the point where it was creating so much chaos in our city and crime that the police chief and the harbor master and myself went to our city council. And when I spoke first, I told them that Pokemon Go was nothing but an experiment. The first one was getting that cell phone, that smartphone, in all of their hands, which was actually a self-directed weapon shooting electromagnetic radiation microwave frequencies at them. And so once that they have covered the globe, that everyone has one of those smartphones, they wanted to see how well it works. So their next experiment was Pokemon Go, and it went global immediately. They knew they were a success.
And that's training. I mean, that's training for these young people to eventually GPS real human beings.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, after they heard me and then the police chief and the harbor master, the city council made a motion not only to ban Pokemon Go in the location where it was, but in the entire city. And it was seconded immediately, and it passed unanimously. I was so excited I couldn't believe it. Well, we waited because it went to the city attorney, and 2 weeks later, the city and the harbor master started a Facebook page and welcomed the Pokemon Go players to our little town and said, please follow our rules. Well, because what we found, you cannot opt out of Pokemon Go because Pokemon Go has nothing to do with the locations. It's just the game. Google is the one. They look at their map. They look at the wide open green spaces and say, oh, let's make that a hot spot.
Oh, so Google is the one who's picking the spots.
Yep.
That's very extremely suspicious right there.
Yep.
We know that the CIA runs Google.
Yep. So, I mean, I just so admire you for staying strong and doing what you're doing and being a real hero warrior for truth. So thank you.
Thank you, Allie. And I thank you too for getting your truth out too, and getting these forms out to people so we can get them on the defense. We have to get the people who are doing this on the defense.
Well, yes, and one of the big issues for me that I really work on is the Wi-Fi in the schools, because what we're doing to our children, and all the work that I do, I say it's for the children and the babies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's cell phone towers right near schoolyards, but then they are actually direct experimentation is being done from babies in the womb to to every age. So they're actually directly experimenting on children with this stuff too. Other than the death towers putting out non-ionizing radiation that's giving them all cancer. I worked for Dream Day Foundation, which was writing grants for, and there's every year at least 2 different new cancers coming out for 2-year-olds. So what does that tell you?
Well, yes, and you got to look at the levels of the diseases. When I was an elected official doing my due diligence, the first thing that I started investigating was water fluoridation. Second was the geoengineering of our skies, and then came the cell towers and smart meters. And what I discovered was all 3 of them worked in synergy with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the calcium intake and everything that happens. So they're really messing with the DNA and all the cells and molecules of our bodies.
And all these, so those 3 parts are compartmentalized. They're all doing that. So the people who are kind of doing it don't understand the big picture, but the people up above them understand that when you combine these things, all those deadly factors are put in together. I mean, it's carefully planned out. This is carefully planned out soft kill.
Oh, it really is. And if you really think about our medical profession, what have they done to the body? They've separated it into 3 parts. The dentist, the doctor, and the brain doctor. Mm-hmm. And none of the doctors are equipped to even integrate all of this. They, because they're so disconnected from each other.
Deadly thing that's ever happened in the world is so much compartmentalization, where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
Yeah, well, I think it's really great that education about this, you can now, it's in universities, you can get CME credits for it. And if there are some doctors that can diagnose the people as being, I don't like the way they use the word electrohypersensitive, because there is no such thing. It's electrocution. Yeah. So, but because you can be diagnosed as being electrohypersensitive, you qualify for the Americans Disability Act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a TI who did that. I was going to try that, but since I had Crohn's and then the psychiatrist put delusional disorder on me, so I used that to get disability. I had to get disability like 3 years ago. I tried to work through this. They were doing V2K and like burning my body while I was trying to write grants for St. Jude. I mean, that tells you how much these people do not care, like how good of a person you are, how good you are for your community. That has nothing to do with it. And as a matter of fact, I think there's an inversion there. If you are good for your community and you are a good person and you'll always do the right thing, then they're kind of worried about you. They need to take you out. So it's
anything that's bad. Good, they try and turn it into bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of been the story of history.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and shame on them, because we should have had free energy instead of the energy we've got.
Yeah, but so many people are making money off of the, fossil
Well, that's just it. That's why we don't have free energy, because there was no profit in that.
Yeah. We're going to get there, though. I mean,
the elite. Well, no, yeah, because they're going down. They're going down. It's happening.
Yeah. They're doing such draconian things and such horrible atrocities that, when the mainstream public shakes their head and rattles their brain finally and says, hold on, my children are being killed right now, I think that we're going to have a lot of people really fighting this. Like, we're going to have people on both sides, us being attacked, and even some of these people I think they don't like what's going on. I think they're going to come out and speak out. I think this is a dam getting ready to burst. We just have to quicken it. We have to keep quickening it.
Well, I think we are gaining, but I do know that I also gotten very involved with the Navy's electromagnetic training on Whidbey Island up on our Washington coast here. And I participated with people that lived up there on many different venues, from town halls and city council meetings, even in a U.S. District Court over the noise from the growlers, and the judge denied them. Couldn't believe that. And I went to the U.S. Forest listening sessions because at that time they were reviewing their Forest Service plan. And my message
to
Allie,
I gotta run and take a bathroom break real quick.
I'll end this up real quick.
Yeah, keep going.
My message to all these three-letter agencies involved with the Navy and the Forest Plan and all of that, I told them that if we do not address or if we do not stop the geoengineering and address the electromagnetic radiation and microwave frequency, nothing else we do will matter because we'll all be gone. So that's why I'm really adamant, and now that I'm on my own with my volunteer work and my public service and everything ended up, and I'm retired, I work full-time at exposing this truth for safe, clean water, safe, clean energy. And with that, I yield, and thank you.
Hey, thank you, Allie. I had to take a bathroom break. Sorry about that, but thank you so much for the hard work you're doing.
Well, did you hear what I said, though?
I didn't hear the end.
Just that if we do not stop the geoengineering and address the electromagnetic radiation and microwave frequencies, nothing else we do will matter because we'll all be gone, including them. Yeah. And they don't realize what they do to the web, they do to themselves.
Mm-hmm. I think, sometimes I think like we need to, show the dangers of all that, but it's not urgent enough for people that they can get cancer from these cell phone towers. So I sometimes feel like if we can drive our cause home, directly being targeted with these things, how much can hurt when somebody just stays on you with these frequencies, then it could show people the urgency of like, our smartphones, our modems, computers, these cell phone towers. I feel like they go hand in hand.
What if they roll out the 5G?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, they're already rolled out with 5G.
Well, in some places, but it's total insanity.
That's death. Because with 5G, there's more potential for these frequencies to go through walls easily. There's just so many more dangers from 5G, and because they're making so much money, all the safety guidelines and safety agencies that are supposed to hold them accountable, they're just like, well, they're making money, and they pay them off. They pay these agencies off to pass it on through.
Well, yes. Well, in the meantime, they have addicted people to the wireless technology because they have taken our control away from everything and given it to that stupid thing you hold in your hand. And I first realized that when the first handheld GPS came out. I was a sailor. I knew what navigation was all about, and looking at that thing in his hand, I knew it was going to change navigation, and I was glad that I knew how to navigate off of charts because I could see it all going away, and I wondered what else are they going to put on there. Well, NOAA quit printing charts over 5 years ago. You can still get them online and print your own out, and some of the old marine distributors still have them in their chart drawers, but you can't. NOAA does not produce them anymore. So, and they've Wi-Fi'd every boat, just like they've Wi-Fi'd every car now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just taken over.
Yeah, and they just made and the masses are addicted to it. You know, try and take a cell phone away from a kid and see how long it takes before they start screaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an addiction, and it's destroying our culture.
I think it is. And I mean, they can put a lot of these frequencies through cell phones and things like that. You know.
Yeah, and bring on artificial intelligence.
Mhm. I mean, we just got to show the public the most urgent things and then tie it in, connect the dots to things that they have in their own home. And I think that people will eventually look at their children and say, this isn't worth it, and we've got to fight back, you know. Even the people who are, you know, regulating the stuff and letting it go through, they'll look at their children after so many people are dying from it, and there will be a backlash. You know, there has
Yes, and you know, and I think a lot more people are waking up because of you and the fine work that you're doing. And I would like you to give your email address again if you can.
Yeah, Allie, send me an email, Vulcan Wolverine. So like Vulcan Spock, Vulcan, and then Wolverine, Wolverine, at gmail.com. Send me an email because I'd like to help you out with the stuff you're doing.
Well, I think we need to help each other out because you know, when there's two that get together, even more know. You know. It's, and
see, that's what I'm all about.
You know, when you're doing all this many videos and posting them, I haven't seen them. And I say tonight's the first time I've heard you, and you just literally took my breath away.
Thanks, Allie. Check out my YouTube page is Vulcan Wolverine, like my email, but there's a space in between it. And I've made over 600 videos. It's mainly about, you know, being tortured by directed energy weapon systems, and also showing a little bit of vehicular harassment, and then showing what other TIs are doing. You know, so check it out.
Yeah, I know several TIs that I'm in communication with. So, and I do actually know one that's living in her car.
I thought I'd heard you before on the calls, Allie. Have you been on other calls? Your voice just sounds familiar.
Well, yes. I think I was a guest on this call quite a while ago, but I have another group that I'm involved with where their calls also are on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. And the Thursday evenings is kind of a 101 for this group, so I got off that call and because I was getting kind of bored with hearing what I'd always heard, and decided I needed to get on this call instead this evening.
Yeah, well, you're always welcome. This is Ella's call, but I have an after call after this. You're more than welcome to come on there anytime.
Yeah, and it was Connie that I think really got me onto this.
Oh, Connie's awesome. Connie's so awesome. I talk to her all the time.
So, yeah, I've been meaning to call her. So.
Yeah. All right, Allie.
So thank you. Thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, definitely.
And I'll
send me an email, Allie.
let somebody else have the floor now. I've taken up too much time.
Well, thank you for your contribution. Thank you. All right, so who's next? Who wants to ask me a question? I'm just going to go by the numbers, guys. New York? You there, New York? Hello?
Hi, Kyle. It's Ann.
Hey, Ann.
Hi. Kyle,
hey.
You know, I so appreciate you going into so much detail. So many times people will say, oh, I'm getting V2K or remote neuromonitoring, but they don't go into detail. So you really don't have a baseline. Like, you know, am I going through the same thing? I think in the beginning I used to just assume that we were all going through the same stuff. But then, you know, by listening and like, oh no, we're not. Like, for example, I am losing my hair as if I'm under chemo. Okay? I mean, I'm losing my hair, and it's not funny. Occasionally, someone will say, oh, yeah, I have less hair. But no, this is serious. This is a lot of hair, okay? So I'm just giving you an example. But I do have a question for you. I just want to get that out, and thank you for going into so much detail.
Like your comment, like I know that sometimes maybe some TIs try not to go into so much detail if we're against non-TIs, but what you just said, that's why I do it. Because I know that if there's another TI out there experiencing this stuff, if E2K is coming off, they'll be like, oh, wow, that's happening to me. They'll be able to figure out more about what's happening to them. Like this guy, Richard Burton did an interview with Romola D, and he went into so much. Did you see that?
I know. No, I didn't watch it. I printed it out. I've been reading it. I got up to I didn't read part 3 yet. But I didn't actually watch it. I didn't have, check
it out. Check it out because, I have V2K, and a lot of people say, I have V2K, but they don't go into a lot of detail about what the people on there are doing and saying and how they're doing it. And he went into a lot. I realized when he was talking, he spoke of 2 protocols that they were doing. One was the man and the woman talking to each other about him and about the targeting. And then another one was, them talking directly to him and saying, hey, Dick, if you do this, we'll do this. And I realized that my protocol was the first thing he went through. And then I knew another TI with V2K who kind of spoke in detail. It was that exact protocol that he was being given. So I was like, wow, it connected the dots for me a lot. So I feel like it really, sometimes I think it maybe loses us a few points with non-TIs who are trying to say, hey, this is happening. But I kind of sacrifice that, to get us all knowing what we're going through,
Yeah, I think I was on the call for about, I don't know how long, a few months, and just assuming that everybody's getting the same thing. And then I heard somebody say, when they were talking about remote neural monitoring. I mean, I could have a think conversation with them, right? And then someone says, oh, they can't read your thoughts. Oh no, and I was like, oh my God, you don't know? I mean, you've been at TI for so long, and you don't know this? Well, okay, well, our targeting is different. I mean, apparently it is, but we have no way of knowing that if people don't go into detail about it, So that's why I so appreciate you doing that. And with that interview that we're talking about with Burton, I did think of you when, the first interview, because it's in 3 parts, and I thought of you, and I thought of Frank.
Yeah,
and I emailed him right away, and I told him, you have to watch this interview. Well, listen, whatever.
So Frank gets he gets Audible V2K?
Yeah, that's what he says he does.
Oh, I did not know that. Like, see, I miss his call on Wednesday because I go to a faith-based call, and then I'm usually not up for his Friday call. I've got to get to Frank's call. I get to some of them, but not enough. And he's doing a great job. Like, he's doing a great job of trying to research it and some good calls, informational calls. Really got to support him more. Yeah.
Okay, now here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever shake your head? Like, what will happen if you shake your head, when the dog is wet and it comes into the house and it shakes vigorously?
Mm-hmm.
Shake your head and tell me what happens.
Okay, we'll see. Doing it now. Kind of the ringing changed. I don't get massive ringing if I'm listening to Dave CD a lot. But what happened is I heard a little bit more ringing in the left side, like it kind of changed up a little bit. But the V2K stayed, like it sounds like it's coming from my left wall. Like they've been talking through this whole thing,
Oh. See, I've never heard anybody address that before, and I've never asked anyone that before. But when I shake my head, I hear a tuning fork. Okay.
You do? That's kind of what happened. That's kind of, because it was like I didn't hear any ringing when I wasn't shaking my head, but I heard the V2K. I shook my head, and I heard like the tinnitus kind of sound, not like really, really, really loud. but I heard it for a couple of seconds, like 15 seconds, like it reconfigure or something like that. Yeah, that's really weird.
A tuning fork. Like I think, what's her name? I think Cece said something like when you're a kid and they give you that ear test with the metal, maybe it's likened to that. Or with me, it actually feels like it's a loose, like something went loose when I shake my head. And yeah, like that. Different. It's different totally. The sound is totally different. It's just it's really wild. But I've never heard anyone talk about it. So I figured this would be my opportunity to ask you.
Well, and you're very smart, and you're very, so you need to bring up some stuff that maybe you're like trying to figure out, because that will make a call, that will put out so much good information on a call where everybody says, oh, I didn't know that. So, never, always throw in things, because you're very insightful.
Well, I don't know if you probably don't remember, but I was the person that said to you, Kyle, when you were talking about him and her couple, the kids, and I said, Kyle, it's typical bad cop, good cop.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember, that was me. But,
I remember. You're right. I think you're exactly right. They do it so. I mean, they've been doing it for so long that they've gotten pretty good at it. Gotten very good at the surveillance role playing, to where I still, even though I know it's surveillance role playing, they've factored in that I think it's surveillance role playing to the surveillance role play. I mean, I don't know what kind of actors they got, on my shifts. I know they do Chatterbox a lot, but I know they are there to put in stuff, actually in real time. But they've got some pretty good actors on me. It's
they certainly
bizarre.
do.
It's bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
But well, anything else you wanted to add or anything? Are you gonna
Wow.
Are you gonna be up for my late call? Or you got?
I'm gonna try to stay up.
You don't have to if you don't. I'm just saying if you want to come.
I like to come.
Okay.
I will. Yes. I will be there.
Just maybe for a couple minutes or something. Just come by.
Yeah.
All right, Ann. All right. Well, I'll unmute you. I'm just gonna go through a couple more questions, and then we might move over to my room.
Okay. Cool.
All right, Ann. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye. All right. Oh, WCA. Hey, Cindy. You there?
Yeah, I am. I wasn't going to talk, but I heard your story, and basically didn't know your house got burned down. Sorry to hear that. I've had hanging threats and bomb
threats. It was really weird. It was because the person that moved in with me wasn't a gang stalker, but she had just gotten released from like a behavioral center for drug abuse. And she was clean and everything like that, and a younger person, and it was an accident. Like, she accidentally burned my house down, and it really was an accident. So it was my gang stalking. But then it was like I had to move out of that house and change everything. Then they were just hitting me remotely, and it really kind of turned my life upside down. It had already been really hard with the targeting, but yeah, it was just burned down. No saving any of it. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. It was nice to hear your story. I'm hoping that other people will be able to tell their stories too, because not any slam against you, but there's a lot of other people that have stories.
And I'll tell you,
the moderators and the favorites.
Well, no,
so I'm just saying.
Well, I'll tell you, Cindy, it was just, I'm doing this November video marathon, and, I think Ella didn't have a guest for tonight. She was like, she called me, I think 15 minutes before the show and was like, hey, you want to just come on and tell your story and talk about your...
yeah.
So it's because of the video marathon thing.
What's the video marathon?
Well, on YouTube. I make a lot of videos, informational videos about our targeting. For the month of November, I'm doing a challenge where I'm going to make 30 or more videos for the month of November, and it's called the November Video Marathon 2017. I'm on day 9, and I've made 11 videos so far, and I'm trying to show people Terry's website, go through some of Brian Two's information, talk about what other TIs are doing, give some testimonials, get vehicular stalking evidence, kind of just, and it's supposed to be a symbol. I'm trying to put out good information, but it's a symbol
in that there's a lot of rare TIs that never come on the mic that would love to tell their story too, and that's what I think some people would want to hear too, is some of the ones that hardly ever speak,
I think Ella's going to get to that. She's always looking for more people to interview, and she'll let anybody come on and tell their story. It was just because of that special thing I was doing.
Yeah, I can hear. I understand.
Just an off the cuff thing where she didn't have anybody coming on. She was like, "Hey, you want to come on tonight?"
Yeah, but I don't know. Good cop, bad cop. We'll have to discuss that on your call because they seem to put you with all the hard to deal with people.
My V2K is very complicated, and it's evolved.
Why? How does that relate to what I said, though?
Good cop, bad. You said good cop, bad cop.
I'll tell you. I'll talk to you about that. What I mean by that later. But you're talking about your V2K. That's really hard for a lot of people.
Because that's what Ann was saying. I have a good cop, and I have a woman who wants to stop and doesn't like it, and then a guy who's like, we've got to put him away. Nobody cares about this. Nobody cares about him.
Are you redirecting me away from the challenging remarks I have for the community?
No, I was saying that's how my V2K works.
Redirecting. Like okay, so I didn't get to say what I want to say freely, but I mean, I did ask you a few questions, so I'll just stand back.
Yeah, what did you want to say?
It'll be really neat when we all get serious, every single one of us, and we learn each other, because just like Anonymous said, there's many people with many stories, and a lot of them don't get to come to the mic, and I'd like to see that. I would
I guarantee you this, if anybody, any TI on these calls came to Ella and said, I want to tell my story one night on your call, she would hook it up. She would hook it up, and she would let them come on and give their story. I guarantee it.
Well, I believe you and I don't, but that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to antagonize. I'm a challenger. I'm an evangelist by nature. I'm the type that
somebody comes on and says, I want to talk about something on your call. She doesn't say, I want to talk to the people who talk the most. She's trying to give everybody a voice,
Well, maybe so, maybe not. I just think that there's work that we all need to do to make this better, to make this support system better. Because that's just my thing by nature, is I'm an evangelist, and I'm the kind that goes into the church and makes them uncomfortable. That's just a natural thing for me.
Yeah, but you gotta remember this though, Cindy. There are a lot of TIs on these calls that are looking for a safe place. They're looking for
I'm aware of that.
So
I'm aware of that.
Please respect that.
Absolutely.
Please respect that. Because you're a seasoned TI, and you've got to.
I've worked with the abused. Absolutely, that's another job that I've done. I'm an abuse counselor.
But I'm just saying. I'm just saying when you talk about things that need to be changed and stuff like that, pick the right venue, because we have a lot of TIs on these calls who want a safe place. They want to have a place to come and talk about what's going on with them. They want people.
That does need to be worked on, because I don't feel fully safe here. So there is an issue with that. I don't feel safe.
Okay,
I don't, and I'll leave the floor. Huh?
Okay. Well, I'll talk to you later, Cindy.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. All right. I'm going to try and get to everybody. I think at about 11:30 to 11:45, over to my room. Hey, Oregon, is that Amy?
Hi, Kyle. It's Amy.
Hey, Amy. Hey, I was trying to get to you. I kept seeing you, but I'm sorry. Like I was just going by the numbers.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. I think you have said on the call many times that you studied film in college. And it sounds like that's true. And so when you make your YouTubes, you're using all your skills from when you studied film. Is that right?
Well, I try to. I want to do better production value because I know that people watch better production value more, and it would get our info out better. But it's really kind of just a guerrilla style of reporting what's happening right now. I guess I can get a good angle and good lighting even on a camera phone, but I really need to work on that. I need to work on better, like when I'm gonna do something off of the computer, like getting the camera on the computer and editing it. But my attackers have made it very hard for me to work with editing programs. So I'm kind of stuck right now doing everything on my phone and uploading on my phone. So I have some skills.
That would be more film if you were allowed to do the editing. That would be more like what you studied and what you want to do, probably, right?
Yeah, I was helping Ella with her with her interview, BB interview, and I had some great pictures. I edited it really good, the interview. I got that one out, but then I did the John Hall one, and my attackers have made it to where I can edit a project. But when I'm trying to turn it into a video file, that they freeze it up, and I can't do it. Like they can keep me from making that video file. So I've got to find a way to get past my attackers. They're hacking into my computer, and I can make a lot.
Yeah, I get the hacking too. I have my Garmin sports watch hacked into, and the whole watch is hacked into, and I'm thinking about bringing it back to the store and getting a new one, and hope that won't, and pray around the watch and send it blessings so that it won't get hacked into. And anything electronic has the capability of being hacked, as we all know. It's really it's just a matter of not letting it bother you at this point, I think. So this way you can go about your time with yourself in a more graceful way without getting caught up in their story, because their thing is to get you all provoked and agitated and focusing in on them. And so by not reacting, by not caring about it, it's happened after a while. You just don't. I just stopped caring about a lot of stuff because I have no control over what the enemy does, what the criminals do. So yeah, you can definitely find a way to get around it. I mean, I'm sure you can. I'm sure there's a way. I'm really sure there's a way for you to do your editing without any kind of interference, interception.
Yeah, I just got to keep on trying to kind of get past them. But I think you're right. It's just not worrying about it, and I don't even see the point of like getting a new computer or a new phone because they're just going to hack into those too. So it's you just got to make do with what you can do. And then we've just got to stop this. We got to get them off of us, Because buying new stuff doesn't seem to help. They hack into that stuff too. I was kind of thinking maybe getting a good idea.
What'd you say? Getting what? What'd you say? Getting what is a good idea?
To get an Apple computer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
hey,
just don't leave it alone. Just don't leave it alone without you watching over it. The Apple computer. Put as much defense as you can in it, and don't leave it alone. And that's probably your best bet. That's probably your best bet for it.
Well, see, I've heard of TIs who've gotten Apple computers, and they, they still hack into them somehow. But then some TIs say that it's harder for them to get into an Apple computer. So I'm really not sure.
Yeah, well, I think a long time ago that used to be real true. It used to be very true a long time ago. I don't know about now, though. I think anything electronic is hackable.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and that's not to be a downer about it. I'm just being a realist about it.
Yeah, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I thank you for your personality. You surely have a radio personality and a very likable personality, and you're very kind to everyone. You're very caring, and you're very mindful about what you say to people. You don't want to hurt anybody, and you're great on your conference call, and this is where you're supposed to be now, Kyle. It's sad that we're all being targeted, but for those of us that have certain skill sets like yourself on the phone with people on the conference calls, I mean, it's a blessing that you're on the call, so you should definitely have that talent, being on the call.
You help a lot of people too. Like, you help so many people. You help them to get through this, but that's what we got to do. We just got to get on these calls, try and understand as much as we can, try and be patient, because this stuff can make us so frustrated. We just got to be patient with each other and listen to each other and have disagreements, but never get into arguments or fights. I think you do a great job, too. I think you do a really good job.
Thanks, Kyle. Well, everyone's like a family. We're like family. We're TI family,
Mm-hmm.
We vindicate each other, we support each other, we listen to each other, and it's comforting being on the calls all the time. I don't know what I would do without the calls at this point.
Me too. I feel the same way.
I'm just very, very grateful. Very grateful. So thank you so much, and I'll let someone else have the floor for now.
Okay, thank you, Amy. And guys, I think what I'm going to do, everybody, is I'm going to go ahead and move the call over to my room. It's 142394. So if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, just come on over there, and I'll try and get you unmuted so you can comment or ask a question. But let's go ahead and move it over to my room, because it's about 11:30 my time, and I did make a video today inviting people on YouTube to come to my after call, and I said it would be at 11 p.m. Central. So about 30. It's that. So let's go ahead and move it to my room, 142394. And anybody who didn't get to talk, just press *8 when we get over there, and I'll give you a chance to comment or ask a question. All right, guys? Thank you. But so for 3 months, no V2K, I had the tinny sound in my ears, but then I decided to move over to the other side of the house just in case this ex-Army guy was helping them. When I moved over to the other side of the house, it's like they switched the ground equipment to the Hispanic gentleman. There was a house with like a bunch of, like, I think 4 Hispanic gentlemen in it. The high-pitched sound became unbearable, and it became obviously like it was coming from their house. It was just very, very obvious. I look back and I'm like, maybe it was remote, but I think that at that time they were hitting me with ground weapons as well as remote, as well as, like, the signals from the cell phone towers. But I heard it from that side and knew that I was being hit. So I freaked out. Because, I thought I had gotten away from it in those apartments. I ran outside to the other side, to the ex-Army guy's house, and this was like kind of noonish. It was noon in the day. And I started banging a log on the ground, going, "Not again! Are y'all doing this to me again?" And the mother, because there's the ex-Army guy, his wife, and they had 2 daughters, she comes running out of the house crying, saying, I'm sorry. And this was a very, very nice lady. Very nice lady. She's like, I'm sorry. And she was like crying, because I think that they were doing something. She thought that it would end there. But what ended up happening is the sheriff came out, the ex-Army guy came home, and my dad came in. And so we had this little kind of talk, and I was like, I'm hearing a high-pitched sound from y'all's house, and I don't know what it is. And he was like, I don't hear any high-pitched sound. It could be my washing machine or something like that. And his wife looked so uncomfortable. Like, she looked like she was on, but she didn't say anything, and she was crying. And when she came running out, she was like, I'm sorry, like saying she's sorry for something to me. And I'm beating a log onto the ground, kind of in the middle, not at their house, but in the middle. So the sheriff goes away, and, I couldn't prove that they were doing anything. They said they would check their appliances and stuff like that. Then after that incident, right after that incident, probably a week later, I got the high-pitched sound where I knew that I was being attacked with a high-pitched sound, and I got voices. I got voices from their house, and the direction was coming from their house, and it seemed like the ex-Army guy and his wife talking about it, where his wife was saying, he didn't do anything. Why are we doing this? And he was like, we got to do this. We got to get him out of here. That was the big thing for the V2K. Now, at that point, even though I knew, like in that Walgreens, that there was some kind of radio signal to my head, even then, with hearing their voices like that, I still thought that I was just hearing their voices from their house. I would not believe it, that voice came into my head. Would not believe it. It took me till I actually looked, well, actually, no, it was before I found out that I was a targeted individual. But I have a hard time with the timeline, but it's like, okay, so I moved in that house in 2012, 3 months, didn't hear any V2K, didn't know I was being attacked, but somebody was slowly attacking me with the high-pitched sound. And after the 3 months, it ramps. I'm being attacked. Probably I'd say a month or a month and a half later, I started really studying. I was like, on here, I had cars going by. Like, I would walk out of my house maybe at 3 in the morning to go to the convenience store, and I would have like 3 white cars drive by. I'd have cabs kind of coming out when I was out. I would, see caravans of cars. Just really, really, really weird stuff. And also, I saw a lot of authoritative vehicles like city police and sheriffs when I was driving around town. I would see those types of vehicles. So, probably about a month and a half after that incident with the sheriff and everything, that's when I got online and I put in high frequency, and then somehow I found electromagnetic frequency from that, and then I put in high-pitched electromagnetic frequency, and I came across the first YouTube video of the person. The first YouTube TI that I saw was Timothy Trespass, and he had a video. He had a video under high-pitched electromagnetic frequency where he played this high-pitched sound. So we were helping them. We were making money for them and doing fundraisers and stuff for them, and doing St. Jude. And it was weird because I had this job. I knew I was being attacked at the apartment. But I thought what was happening when I left is that I was just tired and hurt from what had happened to me when they were shooting the ground weapons at me. It all. But after about 6 months, what happened was I was in Walgreens, and this is after, I'd go to some extended stays, and I thought that I would hear the people above me talking. And it seemed like the same number of people who I heard was at the apartment, like the 3 younger people. So I would move in the extended stay, and I would still hear them above me. And I still, I just, you're not looking for this stuff in your life. You don't know that this stuff exists. So I was like, well, I'm starting to hear people above me. My hearing must be affected. And now my hearing must be really sensitive to where I'm hearing people above me. But about 6 months after a stay in that new apartment, I was in a Walgreens one day. And this was the moment. This was the moment, and I remember it vividly. I was in the Walgreens, and I just came in. I just walked in, and I think I was looking at some magazines right when you walk in. I heard those same three people above me in the Walgreens. And that's when it clicked. I said, they have some kind of remote thing. That ex-Marine guy must have given them some kind of equipment, and they just have this equipment that's used in the Army for communications or sending radio signals or something, and that's what they're doing to me. Still hadn't seen anything about targeted individuals or organized gang stalking or anything like that. So I knew that it was remote at that time. But I stayed in that apartment at the end of 2011. No, probably about a couple months into 2012. And that's when I moved to a house that my mom had found. And you know, I was gonna, you know, do a lease to buy from her, and keep working. So I really getting away from it then. This is a horror. The young kid that ended up, let me kind of finish in that apartment. The younger kids had left any kind of talking to the management, and they owed all this money. It was very, very weird. Very weird. The guy next to me on the floor his place had been broken into numerous times. So I'm not sure if they were trying to set me up or what. And there's a lot of little stories that go into living in that apartment because I had no idea what was going on, and I think they were really trying to get me to do something crazy. But so those young people left, and I did have to stay, I think, like 2 more months after they left before I could move into that house. And at that time, I still heard the high-pitched sound. But what I thought, this is at the time, I thought that the guy next to me on the ground floor or the lady above, that they had given, and so they were hitting me, you know, with ground weapons. That's what I thought. Now I know that I was being hit remotely, and they were trying to make it sound like it came from them. But what they did is they made it a lot lower, and they made it kind of go away every once in a while so that it seemed like a different person would have been doing it. So that was their tactic there. But then I moved into the house with weird. I would still kind of hear high-pitched sounds sometimes, and especially if I turned on my computer, it would have this loud, tinny sound that, you know, I didn't know. But the V2K was gone. Like the V2K that I heard above me, I heard in the Walgreens. For 3 months, I was in this new house, not hearing any V2K. Something weird's going on with my ears, but I thought they were still healing, right? Then one night, it starts to get worse. It's not getting better. The high-pitched sound isn't getting better. It's getting worse. So I'm like, okay, maybe they got the neighbors over here to do it when I moved over here, you know, because I knew by then that my neighbor, after 3 months, I knew he was ex-Army. So I knew him or came over and just asked him, like the ex-Marine guy came over and said, hey, you're ex-Army, you know, will you harass this guy for us? Still, and this is after 2 months, 8 months. How long is that? That's a year. It took me about a year and a half to find out that I was in a larger world of targeted individuals. She agreed to move me to another place in the apartments in the same complex. And at that time, I still did not know what I was involved in. You know, I still did not know what they were doing. I still thought it was just they're trying to get me out of the area. Let me get out of that area. I'll get out of that area and they'll stop doing it. But what happened is I moved down the way to an apartment on the lower level. I had, you know, I think I had about 2 weeks of nothing. No high-pitched sound, no nothing, no anything. And then one day, it started again, and it seemed like it was coming from right above me. And I had one of their girlfriends staying right above me. one day I was walking out, and I'm not sure if I was supposed to hear this or if I just heard this, by chance. But the younger man, he was trying to get into the Army, and he said, "Well, I'm trying to get into the Army." He was talking to one of his friends on the balcony, and he said, he said, "That guy's an ex-Marine. I'm obviously going to listen to him. I don't know this other guy." So I took that as that they had moved the over and above me with these guys. And now what changed then, because I had been hearing the high-pitched sound, but I had been hearing nothing like V2K, nothing at all, no voices or anything like that. It was just that high-pitched sound. Felt like it was just burning my nervous system sometimes, like all the way down from my head, my neck, and my back. But then when I moved into the other part of the apartment, can you hear me, Ella?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
Okay. I moved to the other, like another apartment in the same apartment complex, and I was still hearing the high-pitched sound. It was like they were shooting something. I was getting the high-pitched sound, and I was getting like burning to my face. But I kind of just thought, I thought it was some kind of high-pitched thing that was just making all of my muscles tense up, and I still did not know, that it was some kind of targeting program. But the weird thing that happened there is I would think that I could hear the people above me talking about it. And like the girlfriend that lived there, she would come out for work in the morning, and I'd usually still be up because I was just getting tortured and I couldn't sleep. And she would say something like, "I'm going to turn the high-pitched sound would just turn completely off. It's like she was switching something off. The high-pitched sound would disappear. And then she would leave really slowly. And then, like, what happened? I stayed about eight months there, and I was throwing a tennis ball up at the floor above me, saying, "Stop attacking me, stop attacking me," because I thought that it was just ground weapons hitting me from their apartment. I talked to my dad about it, because I had talked to him about what was happening for the 2 months when the high-pitched sound first started. He helped me to get moved to that other place, but we thought that it would stop then. So I had to, after probably about a month of it happening there, so 2 weeks break with nothing, then another month with the high-pitched sound. I didn't know I was getting V2K yet, but I probably was because I thought it was my neighbor. I thought I could just hear them talking. But I went ahead and I told my dad again. I started trying to get out of that apartment, but because I was on this lease for like another 8 months, I would have lost all that money. So I kind of had to stick it out there, stayed in extended stays. I had a pretty good job then, working for Dream Day Foundation, which for St. Jude, so it wasn't hard to spend some money on extended stays and staying with. What happened there though, and I don't know exactly the timeline, but within that 8 months, and I think it was about maybe. Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a question. What foundation was it?
The Dream Day Foundation. It's
okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, Dream Day Foundation in Louisiana, and I was writing grants and just helping my mom with everything. She's the executive director, or she was the executive director, and I would just do pretty much everything in the office and write grants, and she was also she had a contract, a 501c3, and so she was contracting to work with the Braddock, it's the Baton Rouge area alcohol, basically the alcohol and drugs center, called the Mesquite, which they use overseas in parking lots to get loiterers to go away late at night, and it emits kind of a high-pitched sound. But really only a certain age hears that. It's from the age of 12 to the age of 18 at the latest, they hear that high-pitched sound, but then your ear loses that. Your ear loses that to hear certain frequencies of sound. So I thought that he was using something like this, something he got from the ex-Marine that lived by him. I wasn't sure, but I thought it was they had cobbled something together, and this was just a vendetta against me. I thought it was specifically for me to get me out of that apartment.
Right. I see. So you thought it was to do with they wanted your apartment.
Well, not that they wanted the apartment, but that they just wanted me out of that area.
I see.
Because I was playing music late at night. I was kind of rude, because this guy got up in the morning, really early every morning to go to work, and I would play loud music late at night, and I wasn't thinking about the people around me. So looking back on that, I really was. It would have been annoying. But he never came and said anything to me about it. He never said, can you turn down your music or anything like that. It was just the harassment started. And then that high-pitched noise started one day and then didn't stop unless I would leave. When I would leave, it would stop. It would stop, but the high-pitched sound it would be in my ears and then it would kind of taper off. So now I know what they were trying to make me think, because I had this thought in my head that, okay, my ears are trying to heal when I'm away from it. So I'm hearing the sound and then it's tapering off. But now I realize what they were doing is, I guess they were remote neural monitoring me at the time. They knew kind of what I was thinking about what was going on, so that I was thinking that my ears were just healing up, like it was an after ring effect from what they were doing. And then when I did, it was very, very weird. Just didn't really.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask you. At that point, did you know a lot about targeting, about technology? Had you researched? How in depth was your research at that point?
At that point, it was 2 months in that apartment of that high pitched sound. I knew nothing about it. I thought that maybe it was some kind of device like the mosquito device that this older man had gotten a hold of, or some kind of something they used in the Marine Corps overseas that they the guy stole and brought back with him, and it was just specifically revenge on me to get me out of those apartments. So I did end up in 2 months of just straight hell, and I was going to extended stays and talking to the apartment manager, trying to get moved. I went to my parents, and I would still hear the high-pitched sound, but like I said, it would act differently. When I went to the apartment, it would be constant, very loud. And one night I remember going back to the apartment to get some stuff, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I went to take a bath in the apartment. What it felt like is that this older man got right behind my head while I was in the bathtub and had this emitter, and was just emitting that high-pitched sound to where it felt like nerves in the back of my neck were just becoming unraveled and just pounding in my head. I mean, it was so bad. And then when I moved away from that point, it got a little bit less, but it was like it seemed, this is what it seemed like to me. It seemed like he would take these emitters and then it would take a little while. And then when I'd go to sleep with my parents, I would hear it a lot less, and then it would taper off. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, this is damaging my ears. And so that high-pitched ringing sound when I leave here, it's staying in my ears, but it's healing up. It's healing up when I leave the place. And then after 2 months of that, I finally got my apartment manager to agree to move me down the way in the same apartment complex. Which now, if I would have known the full scope of this program and how they maybe move to another state right away.
Yeah, we are losing. We're losing words here and there, but so far it still makes sense.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. My attackers are probably going to do that. What do you need me to repeat? Just after 2 months, I talked to my apartment manager, and I.
Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Welcome to the Thursday Night's Time for Targeting podcast. I'm your moderator, Ella, and tonight we have a very, very, very special guest, one close to my heart, Vulcan Wolverine, also known as Kyle. If you are new to the call, please stay on, and we will get you some support, some additional Talk Show podcast numbers, and some helpful links and websites. This is a solutions and educational-based podcast, but the views and opinions of my guests are not necessarily my own personal views and opinions. My goal is that everyone can obtain something out of tonight, especially a feeling of empowerment. If you have any suggestions, comments, questions, or especially if you are in need of additional support, please don't hesitate to email me at tiangel2016@gmail.com. Again, that's tiangel2016@gmail.com. So thank you, Kyle. I know this was very last minute, so I'm really happy that you were able to come on and agree to be interviewed. I think, a lot of times with moderators and other people out there busy in the activist field, we don't know a lot about them, or maybe you've told your story a long time ago, but we have a whole new crop of new people. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for everyone to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, and thank you, Ella, for having me on. And, it's not a big deal that it's kind of on the fly because that's pretty much just how I do everything. I am Kyle, or a.k.a. Vulcan Wolverine on YouTube. When I do YouTube videos, they're pretty much on the fly, just to have an idea to, show a certain article that a TI wrote, or information or a testimonial, or just what's going on in my life. I kind of pick pretty quick, so no problem,
Great. So, well, I guess I'm always curious about, I understand you live in the South, and so you're a Southern boy. So you were raised in the South as well?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Louisiana, all my life. And I did go to Texas, to University of Texas in Austin. I got my BS in radio television in 2003. And then I went to work for a very, very well-known computer company in Texas for about... and y'all know it's Dell, so I did spend a lot of time in Texas, and then I kind of wanted to start my story of targeting when I came back from Texas. I finished up working at Dell. I kind of want to start. It was about 2010, late 2010 or 2011 that I returned to Louisiana. From college at Texas and then working at Dell, and that's when I realized that I was being externally affected by it.
Oh, wow. And how did you know?
Well, it was, about a year before I started hearing the high-pitched sound, my neighbor, he was an older gentleman, and he would, so I'd wake up in the morning to go to the bathroom, and when I'd walk in, he would start running his water. So there was someone, I thought he was hearing me walk across the floor of the apartment, and he would also come out at the same time as me. So if I was leaving early in the morning, he would come out at the exact same time, or if I went to go get my mail, he would be there. And it was generally that gentleman. And about 8 months after that kind of weird stuff started, then boom, one day that high-pitched tinnitus sound, started hearing that so badly that I had to lay down on the couch. I was trying to just go everywhere to get away from it in the apartment. And so that's when I knew that somebody was hitting me with something. But I had no idea that it was a large program, that other people were being hit by it. And it was about 2 months in this apartment that I was being hit with that high-pitched sound to where it was burning my head. My head felt like it was going to burst open. I'd go to the back room, I'd go to the front room to lay on the couch, and I would hear it everywhere. It did sound like...
What, initially?
Well, what I initially thought it was, because there was an ex-Marine younger man and then that older man who lived by me. And so I thought, hey, this older guy has figured out something. He's got some equipment from this ex-Marine, some kind of communications equipment, or he's got something that he just kind of put together, and it's emitting some kind of high-pitched sound right at my head. So I started studying, like I went to Radio Shack, and I looked up online high-pitched sounds, and I found this thing